Chapter 1108. After sacrificing 60% of his luck for 14 days, Bold Explorer was activated, and the world before Han Zhao's eyes suddenly changed. His perspective was suspended in outer space, and below his feet was a giant planet. A silver-gray land with an arc extended out in his vision and curved at the end. The horizon was covered in a layer of dazzling blue and white light, and a shining light that was embedded on it. That was a huge photon energy tower, embellishing the dark background of the universe. Han Xiao looked over. The land was a steel forest without any greenery, and countless strange-looking mechanical buildings filled every inch of space. The mechanical towers pointed to the sky, making this giant planet look like a mutated sea urchin covered in steel armor. Its cold, heavy style had a hint of evilness. This time, his perspective suddenly zoomed in, and he fell to the ground, passing by many mechanical cities at a low altitude. He saw that the residents of this planet were all mechanical bodies with different appearances. It was almost impossible to find two identical individuals. Their structures were all complicated and exquisite, and they looked extremely advanced. They're all mechanical bodies. Could this be a mechanical life civilization? Looking at this scene as a bystander, Han Xiao could not help but think of the psionic prime mechanical civilization under his command. The two were very similar, but the difference was that this mechanical civilization revealed by Bold Explorer was more advanced and had already developed to a mature stage. Does the virtual mutiny virus originate from this unknown mechanical civilization? Han Xiao thought as he looked at the things in front of him carefully. Right at this time, something strange happened. Suddenly, a dazzling light shone in the sky. An incomparably huge torrent of rays swept across, and a giant planet was in its path. A large shield appeared outside the giant planet, but the moment it came into contact with the ray, the shield evaporated and turned into countless energy particles. The next moment, the giant planet that had lost its protection started to peel off layer by layer, annihilating and disintegrating in an instant. The entire planet was easily erased from the universe by this ray. At this time, the skill ended, and the illusion in front of Han Xiao disappeared. He returned to his room with a frown. The last ray, just now, was a super high-energy, directional gamma-ray burst. Perhaps it was not just a natural disaster. It seemed to be weaponized. Gamma-ray bursts were common disasters in the universe. Vaporizing a few planets was like child's play to them. Most of the civilizations of today had defenses that could withstand such natural disasters. However, the civilization in the illusion was extremely advanced. Yet, it had been blasted into smithereens with a single blast. Ordinary people would not be able to see too many details, but the senses of a beyond grade, a life form, were different. They could see many things that ordinary people could not see. He realized that there was obviously something added to this gamma-ray burst. It might be the star-destroying war weapon of some advanced civilization. The universe was filled with radiation. In fact, it was very lively and bright, but in the eyes of ordinary people, there was only darkness. Different life forms saw different worlds in their eyes. They all saw the world through keyholes, but the keyholes of higher life forms were larger. The information provided by the skill this time isn't enough. There's no clear direction. Han Xiao rubbed his lips with his thumb and summarized the information shown in the short illusion. First, there was an advanced civilization that was suspected to be mechanical life forms. They had a large colonial planet with high technology. Then, this planet was blasted apart by a star-destroying war weapon, which proved that there was another advanced civilization as their enemy. The strength of the enemy civilization was at least at the star cluster level and could possibly reach the quasi-universe level. The creator of the virtual mutiny virus should be one of these two civilizations. There was too little information about the other civilization, so Han Xiao did not consider it. He mainly analyzed this unknown mechanical civilization. There are many possibilities for the origin of a mechanical civilization. The most common one is that it was enlightened by a beyond grade A mechanic, but it could also be another origin. For example, a biological civilization ascended mechanically and the consciousness of the entire race turned into a mechanical mind, changing their physical body into machinery to obtain immortality. It's also possible that this civilization is in the form of an AI civilization, a world dominated by some intelligent life forms. The external mechanical body is just a vehicle for them to travel in the real world. Han Xiao analyzed it again. What confused him the most was that the era of this mechanical civilization was clearly not a civilization of the modern galaxy calendar. He did not know if it was a lost civilization that existed in the exploration era or an unknown advanced civilization in the unexplored universe. I still have to continue using Bold Explorer to collect information. Maybe I should find a target with a stronger connection to use this skill. Han Xiao suddenly had an idea. He had almost forgotten that the triangular safety device that stored the virus had already been seized by the 3 universal civilizations. Wouldn't that be a better target? He could also visit Harrison and the others while he was at it. These poor fellows were temporarily locked up because they released the virtual mutiny virus. The promise of freedom given to them by the supervisor was clearly nothing more than a fart blown away by the wind. With such a huge disaster, how could a small supervisor make the decision? Harrison was currently crying in prison. The 3 universal civilizations were considerate of this group of prisoners. They were afraid that their long prison life would cause their bodies to rust, so they carried out high-intensity interrogations every day to help them exercise and maintain their health. With this in mind, Han Xiao left a bunch of his subordinates in the room to help Philip decipher the virus code, while he left the R&D department and strode to the dynasty's office in the command center. The 3 universal civilizations had appointed their own supervisors to take charge of the matters in the ancient Star Desert. With Han Zhao's position in the Red Empire, he met the supervisor in charge of the dynasty's side without any hindrance. The other party stood up to welcome him. After exchanging a few pleasantries, they sat down. "Your Excellency Black Star, what business do you have with me?" the supervisor asked. "I've looked at the information you gave me and am preparing to study the device that stored the virus. I hope I can borrow it." "That's not a problem." The supervisor immediately agreed, giving him a lot of face. "Also, I want to get in touch with the group of scavengers who dug out the virus. If possible, I want to temporarily release them. You can see them at any time, but letting them go doesn't seem appropriate. I know, you've been interrogating them, but you haven't found anything. They should be just unlucky people without so many conspiracy theories. There's no point in locking them up." The supervisor frowned and said with a heavier tone, "But releasing the virus has caused such a huge impact. This is a serious crime. Even if this is just an accident, they have to take responsibility. How can you let them go just like that?" Han Xiao shook his head and said, "They might be able to help. Let them stay by my side temporarily to atone for their crimes. If they really contribute, it'll be worth it." The supervisor hesitated for a while before agreeing. "Since it's your request, all right. However, they're still prisoners and can't move freely. They have to follow you." He only agreed because of Black Star's position. If it were anyone else who made this request, he would not even bat an eyelid. "Thanks." Han Xiao smiled. "I have another request. I hope to work part-time in the field. You're going to work outside?" The supervisor was a little surprised. Han Xiao nodded and said seriously, "That's right. The research and development work here is led by Manison and the others, so I don't have to devote myself to it. It's a waste of resources for me to stay here. Currently, there are 2 missions that are just as important as developing the antivirus." "Please speak." "The first is to find the virus core. If we can solve the virus core, most of the triggering mechanisms of the virtual mutiny virus will be nullified. It's equivalent to destroying the enemy's brain, and the threat of the disaster will decrease. This is indeed very important." The supervisor agreed. If they could control the virus core, the progress of solving the disaster would increase by more than half. However, the virus core was hidden too deep, and the 3 universal civilizations could not find it all. It was like looking for a needle in a haystack. As he spoke, Han Xiao raised 2 fingers and said, "Secondly, in my opinion, with the combined abilities of the 3 universal civilizations and the numerous beyond grade A mechanics, it's only a matter of time before we crack this virus. This is not an unsolvable problem. The real problem lies in the fact that there are people with ill intentions. Hearing this, the supervisor frowned. History has taught us countless times that the greed and suspicion of the human heart is the catalyst for disaster. If not controlled, small problems will eventually evolve into big problems that can't be dealt with. Han Xiao slowly said, I'm sure the dynasty also understands that the virus itself is not difficult to solve. The real problem lies in the people with bad intentions in the universe. The outbreak of a virtual mutiny virus is like handing the switch of disaster to these people. With such a good opportunity here, who wouldn't want to have a strategic deterrent weapon? He could see clearly that this was like an opportunity for anyone to easily obtain nuclear weapons. The cost was extremely low. Which organization with ambition would not want to give it a try? The supervisor stood up, paced back and forth, and said with a deep voice, You're right. The upper echelons of the three universal civilizations have always been worried about this. We're all on the same side, so there's no need to be secretive. The supercluster civilizations have been obeying us on the surface for a long time. They won't listen to us obediently. The dynasty's main artificial intelligence has analyzed the situation. The advanced civilizations in the ancient star desert are not the only ones who have their eyes on the virtual mutiny virus. There are also various organizations in the outside world. They will hire countless black market mercenaries and wanted criminals to help them smuggle the virus. This is also one of the reasons why the three universal civilizations have locked down the star field. However, we need the ancient star desert civilizations to cooperate with us to eliminate the virus. We can't be too harsh on them, especially the supercluster civilizations. They can reactivate their external communication base at any time. Whether the virus is leaked or not, it's not up to us. They have the right to decide. Of course, they won't dare to act recklessly. Therefore, if the three universal civilizations want to control the situation, they can only be careful and turn a blind eye, not daring to push them too far. This is another reason why we want to develop the antivirus as soon as possible. As long as the threat of the virus technology is resolved from the root, the tricks of the advanced civilizations will fall apart. As he spoke, the supervisor stopped, placed his hands on the table, and slowly said, Your Excellency Black Star, since you're willing to go out into the field, I'll give you 3 dynasty fleets to command. I hope you can catch as many bastards who are blinded by greed and disregard the safety of the universe as possible. Okay, Han Xiao stood up and shook hands with him. The other beyond grade has focused on their research and wanted to understand this virus technology. No one was willing to waste their energy to go out and catch people. In their eyes, this was hard work that they should not be responsible for. However, Han Technician was different. He had the Intelligent Plague mission. If he wanted to increase his mission rating, it was not enough to rely on research and development alone. After all, the credit will be shared by a lot of people. The way he saw it, the most direct way to increase his mission rating was to go out and catch those who had escaped the net with bad intentions. Furthermore, the special requirement was to personally destroy the virus core. Of course, he did not want to stay in the command center every day to do research. As for research, the more others deciphered, the more he would share. When old Manison completely deciphered the virus structure, he could just go and take the ready-made virus for secondary research. This would save him a lot of effort and allow him to slack off. After reaching an agreement with the person in charge, Han Xiao left the dynasty's office and went all the way to the prison area to visit Harrison. When the warden learned of Han Xiao's intentions, he immediately welcomed him in and led the way respectfully. In a single cell, Harrison laid on the bed with his hands on his head, staring at the ceiling in a daze. Is this how I'm going to be for the rest of my life? Harrison heaved a sigh. In the past month in prison, there was not a single day that he did not regret. His hunchback then was right. The triangular device that he had dug up had indeed brought him a lot of trouble. If he had known this would happen, he would not have gone down that ruin no matter what. The serious consequences of this archaeological expedition had scared him so much that his hands and feet were cold, and his heart was in a mess. Although it was an unintentional mistake, he had made such a huge mistake. His heart was filled with guilt and regret. Not only had he brought disaster, but he had also thrown his life away. Those interrogators had already revealed that they were the culprits, and their fate would be to spend the rest of their lives in prison. If I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have come out to do an archaeological expedition. Curiosity killed the cat. If I had stayed at home obediently and inherited the billions of assets, I don't know how comfortable my life would be right now. Harrison was disheartened. Swoosh! At this moment, the cell door opened, and 2 people walked in. Is it time for interrogation again? Harrison sat up. He was already used to being tortured, and he had a resigned expression on his face. Han Xiao glanced at him and compared the image of the young man in front of him with the image of the old man in his memory. He nodded and said, "You're Harrison. You're not the prison guard? What are you?" Harrison raised his head, and when he saw Han Xiao's face clearly, he opened his mouth wide in shock and stuttered, "Black. Black Star?" Han Xiao's face was now a household name in the universe. Of course, some viewers who had watched the movie Black Star Origins mistook Fu Ding for Black Star himself. However, Han Xiao was very magnanimous about this. After all, the 2 of them had similar looks, so it was normal for them to mistake each other. Speaking of which, that movie had been released while he was on his way, and the response was excellent. Not only had his reputation skyrocketed, but he had also earned a huge sum of money. The rate of return had reached hundreds of times, and it was still rising. The explosive profits of the entertainment industry in the galactic era were evident. Putting aside his distracting thoughts, Han Xiao blinked and patted Harrison's shoulder hard. "You're the one who dug up the virus?" Harrison's shoulder hurt from the pat, and he immediately came back to his senses. In front of a big shot in the universe like Black Star, he could not help but feel a little reserved and nervous. He nodded repeatedly. "All right, then you and your teammates will follow me for the time being." What do you mean?" Harrison was confused. Seeing this, the warden next to him said with an annoyed tone, "You have to thank His Excellency Black Star. He spoke up for you and got the higher-ups to let you out. If not for His Excellency Black Star, you'd be in jail for the rest of your life." Harrison was stunned, and his face was filled with disbelief. "His Excellency Black Star, why did you save me?" "Who said I saved you? I just felt that you guys are the diggers, so you might be able to help. If I have any questions, I can ask you guys at any time. When the warden lets you guys out, I'll come over to see you first. Can I help?" Harrison was at a loss. He did not know what he could do to help. However, this did not stop him from understanding that his fate had been saved by Black Star. His face was filled with excitement, and his eyes were filled with gratitude. He wanted to grab Black Star's hand and thank him, but due to the difference in status, he hesitated and did not dare to move. He just stood there in a daze, so excited that he did not know what to do. In his eyes, Black Star was an angel sent by the heavens to save him. His whole body was shining with holy light, and his figure was tall and sturdy. He was his lucky idol. Just when he thought he had fallen into the abyss, an unfamiliar big shot pulled him up. Harrison's heart was filled with emotions, and he only felt that there was nothing he could do to repay Black Star. Although this was the first time they had met, Harrison's favorability was almost at full capacity. Han Xiao smiled at him, then turned and walked out of the cell. When he turned his back, he could not help but smile. Looking at the combat notification on the interface, Harrison's attributes could be seen. "Just by standing by my side, you're already helping me." In the attribute pane, the golden Advanced Luck Glow was listed. "The 3rd golden leak is in my hands." Han Xiao took a deep breath happily and felt refreshed. This must be the smell of lucky girl. Cough, the smell of Providence. P.S. Recommended a few good books from friend. 9-Star Poison Milk, Tomorrow's Calamity, and Seeking the Mortal World. They're all popular books. If you're interested, grab them and take a look. You'll feel good for a while, and you'll feel good for a while. Or 2, 3. Chapter 1109. After meeting with Harrison, Han Xiao left the prison, ran back to the research center, and found the Beyond Grade A mechanic there. "You're going to the field?" Hearing this news, Manison and the other Beyond Grade A mechanics were a little surprised. They did not understand why Black Star would do such a menial job instead of doing his research. What kind of attitude is that? I'm responding to the call of the three universal civilizations, leading by example and leading the charge. I'm responsible from head to toe, Han Xiao said righteously. Manison was too lazy to continue the conversation. He glanced at Han Xiao and guessed Black Star's plan. Then just go. Why are you looking for us? Black Star was a person who would not act unless he saw a rabbit. If there were no benefits, he would definitely not go to the field. He felt that Black Star was not only looking for the virus core, but also wanting to take the opportunity to infiltrate the various large organizations in the ancient Star Desert. To be honest, Manison also had such thoughts in the beginning, but after thinking about it, he gave up on this idea. The current three universal civilizations would never allow a beyond grade A to take the opportunity to expand their organization. Their actions would most likely end up benefiting someone else. Thus, the Mechanic Emperor, who had always been dishonest, was now obediently researching the antidote set, not wanting to cause any trouble. Furthermore, new technology was far more attractive to him than expanding his organization. This time, Han Xiao chuckled, stretched out 2 fingers, and said confidently, "Since you don't need to fight, you don't have to. Since you don't need to fight, why don't you sponsor me and lend me some mechanical troops?" Everyone was silent. Lending you our troops is like sending sheep to the tiger's den. How can we get them back? You're just lusting after our troops. You're despicable. How much do you want? Sigh, I don't have high expectations. This is mainly a time to let the three universal civilizations see your sense of justice. Just give as much as you want, but don't exceed 50 million per person. I'll feel bad if it's too much. Han Xiao waved his hand humbly. 50 million mechanical troops. What the hell are you thinking? You'll feel bad? How shameless. Everyone cursed in their hearts, but they did not reject Han Xiao's request. The three universal civilizations' allies and a few neutral beyond grade A mechanics all lent out a portion of ordinary mechanical soldiers, which added up to about 8 million. Old Manison was the most generous of them all, lending 5 million mechanical soldiers. This was just a drop in the bucket for him. The stingiest one was Mechanical Catastrophe Francisco, who only gave him 5,000 troops. Even Jackernitz, a mechanical pugilist who was not proficient in machinery, gave more than him. A beyond grade A mechanic had a lot of assets, and a few mechanical soldiers were nothing. Knowing that he would not be able to get them back, he might as well just treat them as losses. In comparison, they still had to give face to Black Star. Furthermore, this was also to show their attitude to the three universal civilizations, showing that while they were too lazy to do anything, they still strongly supported the field operations. Putting away the sponsored troops, Han Xiaoxin was satisfied. While these soldiers were also nothing to him, he liked to see these beyond grade as grit their teeth and feel helpless. Arriving at the dock of the starport, Han Xiao boarded the main ship that the dynasty had arranged for him and took over the command authority from the captain. From now on, the three dynasty fleets were temporarily under his command. After waiting for a while, the warden rushed over with Harrison and the others. "Your Excellency Black Star, the procedures are complete. I'll leave these people to you." The warden's tone was respectful. "Okay." Han Xiao nodded. He looked at Harrison and the others, who were overjoyed, and said, "You are not free yet. You have to follow me from now on. If you do anything, I will throw you back into prison. Do you understand?" "Understood." Before Harrison even spoke, his teammates beside him could not wait to shout, afraid that they would lose their only chance if they answered too slowly. Han Xiao nodded. After sending the warden away, he gave the order to set sail. The three fleets slowly took off, leaving the disaster command center of the three universal civilizations and entering the depths of space. At this time, the captain asked, "Your Excellency Black Star, where are we going now? What do you usually do?" Han Xiao asked. "We usually patrol the desolate universe belt or check some planets that are confirmed to have traces of the infection. Currently, the various civilizations in the ancient Star Desert had set up checkpoints at the Stargate stations, the borders, and the transportation hub planets. All spaceships had to be checked. As for those unknown spaceships that avoided the Stargate stations and moved freely in the desolate universe belt, As long as they connected to the public link of the star field, the three universal civilizations could track their IP address, locate them, and send people to intercept them. This was the original purpose of the star field's internal network. Most of the field fleets were carrying out such missions. Therefore, the biggest problem was that the spaceships that blocked the public link and entered stealth mode could only find the whereabouts of these people through the space monitoring buoys that were densely packed in the star field. Let me think. After understanding the situation, Han Xiao pretended to be deep in thought, but he actually opened the players' forums to take a look. The outbreak of the intelligent plague had attracted the attention of the players to the ancient star desert. Now, all the discussions about the ancient star desert were pinned to the top. Because most of the players were in the flickering world, the ancient star desert was immediately locked down after the outbreak of the intelligent plague, so the players from the outside world could not intervene. They could only vent their strong curiosity through discussion. Han Xiao opened the pin post, and the players' discussion jumped into his eyes. Bulging tight clothes. I knew it. The previous two versions had more than one main storyline event. 4.0 is indeed the same. The Intelligent Plague is the second main storyline event. Root-seeking formula. But we can't participate in this main storyline event. We can't even enter the ancient star desert. Can we only watch from the sidelines? 3 Gays Under the Moon. Didn't you see the new episode of Galaxy Times? The program made a reasonable guess. They said that this main storyline event is not for us to watch, and there is definitely a chance for us to participate. Therefore, the possibility of the virus being leaked is very high. Only then will the rest of us have a chance to intervene. Four-eyed reasoning emperor. That's right. Furthermore, there are many missions on the black market that hire people to try and sneak into the ancient star desert. We players could do the same. Judging from our influence on the main storyline event in the previous 2 versions, this intelligent plague event might be pushed by us. As long as someone successfully leaks the virus, the version event will spread across the entire universe. Undead don't wear underwear. Let the disaster spread across the entire universe? It's really the 4th disaster. Underscore smiley face angle underscore sun night. That's too much. Wouldn't it be better to stop the disaster? Do you have to watch the world burn? Don't you have any conscience? Shijin Xiang. That's right. Did you guys teach the army commander? How can we be a burden and let the people of the universe suffer? In the post, the players were divided into several factions. They were discussing and cursing at each other. The players did not know that the intelligent plague was just the background story of his previous life, and thought that it was one of the main storyline events of version 4.0. Now that most of them were in the flickering world and could not enter the ancient star desert, many of them were anxious that they could not participate in the main storyline event. Some of them believed that the main storyline event would not be a cutscene, so they deduced that the intelligent plague event did not need to be pushed and would be leaked on its own. Others felt that this main storyline event needed to be fought for, so they actively leaked the virus and let the disaster spread. They believed that this way, they would be able to obtain a universe-level main storyline event. Among the players of the entire universe, there were many who supported pushing for the disaster. Some wanted to participate in the main storyline event, some wanted to earn rewards, and some simply wanted to create a big piece of news. They just wanted to watch the world burn, hoping that it would not be chaotic, as expected of the cancer of the universe. Han Xiao secretly shook his head. As the chaotic players continued to become stronger, their negative impact on the universe environment would become more and more obvious. However, he was also slightly relieved. If the players in his previous life encountered the intelligent plague, probably half of them would support pushing for the disaster. Now, with the Black Star Corps as a guide, more people considered the problem from the perspective of the big picture and opposed the disaster. The lawless, chaotic, evil faction players were obviously much fewer than in his previous life. My faction guidance plan is still somewhat effective. Han Xiao was relieved. He scanned through the other posts on the forum. Suddenly, his eyes locked onto a post titled, Ancient Star Desert Player Benefits. Employment mission with a reward of 5 million anus. The poster proudly shared a screenshot of the mission. The content was to smuggle the virtual mutiny virus out of the ancient star desert, and the reward was 5 million anus. To the players, this was a huge sum of money, enough to buy more than a dozen small and medium-sized battleships. Seeing that the players who stayed in the ancient star desert got a chance to earn big money, many replies expressed their envy. Han Xiao glanced at the ID of the poster. It was Melancholic Prince, and he could not help but narrow his eyes. A reward of 5 million anus and a deposit. It felt a little strange. This seemed to be using the players by name. The employer behind the scenes should have summarized some of the characteristics of the players. Humph! The players who stayed in the ancient star desert really can't hold back. I have to use thunderous means to stop this evil trend that supports the disaster. Han Xiaoxin made the decision to kill the chicken to warn the monkey. This melancholic prince who publicized the employment mission was undoubtedly an excellent target. Only by dealing with him with thunderous means and letting the other players see the consequences of causing trouble would he be able to correct the atmosphere and reduce the number of people who dared to cause trouble. At the same time, he could follow the clues and investigate the anonymous employer of Melancholic Prince. After all, if there was no transaction, there would be no killing. The mercenaries were only following orders. Only by finding the employer behind the scenes with ulterior motives would he be able to intimidate them. Although Melancholic Prince did not disclose his coordinates, since the other party was a mercenary, there would definitely be records of his whereabouts in the galaxy. As long as he locked onto the most recent record, he would be able to determine the approximate search range. For a pinnacle beyond grade of virtual mechanic, this was a piece of cake. Information about the ancient star desert was blocked, but the player forums were not affected. With this additional intelligence network, Han Xiao could obtain information that others would not be able to know. Right, I still have to find the manager of the black market in the ancient star desert. These employment missions to smuggle the virus are all issued through the black market. As long as I control this channel, I will be able to monitor the movements of those restless organizations and cut off one of the employment channels. Han Zhao's eyes flickered. If the manager of the black market in the ancient star desert did not cooperate, he did not need to be soft-hearted. Even the 3 universal civilizations would be happy to have someone temporarily control the black market channel to reduce the risk of a disaster. With this in mind, Han Xiao had a clear target and turned to look at the captain. Split up. The main team, follow me. We'll go catch a few bastards. Somewhere in the desolate universe belt of the ancient star desert, a galactic fortress was floating in the outer space of a desolate planet. Spaceships patrolled around it, and the outer armor had the same emblem, which looked like a roaring wolf head. This emblem represented a galactic organization called the Keppel Financial Group. On the surface, it was a legitimate financial group, but in reality, it was a black market arms dealer in the ancient star desert, operating the gray business of arms reselling. The organization was run by a family, and the leaders were all members of the Keppel family. The current leader of the organization was Keppel V, who had a part of the beast race bloodline and a werewolf head. At this moment, in the leader's office of the Keppel Financial Group Fortress, Keppel V received a capable officer who had just rushed back. I asked you to be responsible for spreading anonymous employment on the black market. Has the mission been completed? Keppel V asked with a deep voice. Yes, many black market mercenaries have already accepted the mission and are willing to secretly transport the virtual mutiny virus. Very good. The virtual mutiny virus is a powerful weapon. There will definitely be a market for it in the future. We need to control it. As a black market arms dealer, the Keppel Financial Group had no reason to let go of a powerful war-grade weapon like the virtual mutiny virus. It had nothing to do with other factors, but purely commercial considerations. Boss, there's one more thing. I've specially hired some immortal mercenaries. I think they have a higher chance of completing the mission. Well done. The immortals are money grubbers and are naturally suited to be mercenaries. As long as they're given enough money, they are willing to give up their lives. Moreover, they have an unknown method of information exchange within their group that is unaffected by the quantum network. Using their abilities can increase the success rate of our plan. As long as one is transported out, the virus can be infinitely replicated. Keppel V was very satisfied with the results of his subordinates' work. All the major organizations had studied the characteristics of the players and had more or less concluded some rules. The Keppel Financial Group was no exception. They had grasped some simple ways to make use of the players. Currently, the ancient star desert was sealed, and the various gray organizations could be thoroughly investigated by advanced civilizations at any time. The Keppel Financial Group had decided to transfer their assets to the outside world and destroy evidence of their gray businesses. Therefore, they wanted to transport the virtual mutiny virus and other weapons out of the star field. A new month has begun. At the beginning of the month, I'm weekly asking for monthly votes. Oh, by the way, I recommend a book, Elderly Superstar. Sitting up in shock while on the verge of death, an old man in his 60s becomes a superstar. Silly entertainment novel. It will be on the shelves tomorrow. Chapter 1110. The Western Sword Guild's spaceship slowly flew in the universe. Inside the cabin, Melancholic Prince and the guild members surrounded the 3D star map, analyzing the route. We're currently in this area. The Melancholic Prince pointed his finger on the star map and drew a glowing path along a desolate universe belt at the edge of the star field until he crossed the border of the star field. He said, "Don't worry about it." He then said, "If we want to leave the star field, we can only go through the desolate universe belt. The three universal civilizations will always have gaps in their defenses at the border. Although we have the three universal civilizations' defense and patrol maps, we still need to rely on luck." Hearing the president explain the plan, the guild members present nodded. After accepting the anonymous employment of 5 million anas, Melancholia Prince came up with some plans to successfully transport the virus out. Among them, seizing the gaps in the defenses of the three universal civilizations and sneaking out was the most feasible way. In order to not be locked onto by the three universal civilizations, the Western Sword Guild had already cut off the public link and kept the spaceship in stealth mode. Logically speaking, they would not be able to receive any information from the outside world and would become a group of blind people. However, Melancholic Prince made use of his characteristics as a player to log into the forums and secretly hire other players to provide information through the forums at any time. This was how he obtained the three universal civilizations' defense and patrol maps in the ancient star desert. Even if the quantum network was cut off, he still had a source of information to pay attention to the outside world. This way, not only could they prevent the three universal civilizations from locking onto the nodes through the network, but they could also receive information from the outside world at any time. Compared to ordinary people, the players did indeed have a huge advantage. It was no wonder the Keppel Financial Group chose to hire immortals. This time, a player said, "President, the closer we get to the border, the denser the space monitoring buoys will be. If we fail and get discovered, the spaceship will definitely be detained. We only have one chance to catch the three universal civilizations patrol. So, we have a plan B." Melancholic Prince had a confident expression on his face. He chuckled and said, "Once we're discovered by the buoys or patrols, we'll use the infiltration tactic. Only a few of us will stay in the spaceship, and the rest will go offline. When a spaceship is locked up in the warehouse, the remaining people will inform us to go online in the vehicle and infiltrate the enemy's base. This way, we can sneak in the infected communicator." Everyone nodded in agreement. This move would also take advantage of the player's characteristics. It would make use of the online and offline mechanism to create a time difference. It was very suitable for missions like hiding, ambushing, and smuggling. He also had a backup plan if he was exposed. That was, he could only reluctantly give up the spaceship and die in a bloody battle. Then he would be revived in the stronghold that he was bound to. This way, he could still think of other ways to carry out the mission. There were many opportunities for trial and error. Anyway, the reward was 5 million. As long as he could complete the mission, it would be easy to buy another spaceship. With so many advantages, the members of the Western Sword Guild were very confident in completing the mission. It was as if they could see 5 million anas waving at them. As for the possibility of becoming a fugitive after being exposed, no one really cared. They had always been in the gray industry and were as black as dust. They had no intention of washing their hands clean. Being a fugitive could even trigger a milestone mission. The higher the bounty, the higher the reward. No one cared about the losses caused by the leaking of the virus to ordinary people. Instead, they felt a sense of excitement. Most of the players who supported the spread of the disaster had such thoughts. The melancholic prince was full of confidence. He said with a smile, "Okay, since no one has any objections, we will act according to this plan. Because we cannot use the Stargate, we will spend a lot of time on the road. We estimate that we will enter the desolate universe belt in 7 days." Now, at this time, before he could finish, the spaceship's alarm suddenly sounded. Woo 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 warning. The space-time in this area is stable. Hyperdrive is not possible. Automatically exiting hyperdrive mode. The spaceship suddenly shook. Everyone was shocked and could not react in time. They all fell to the ground and got up with a shocked expression. What's going on? There is actually a space-time anchor here? Whose trap did we fall into? The melancholic prince was shocked and hurriedly looked at the radar screen. At this time, light spots suddenly appeared on the radar screen. The stealth mode was deactivated, and a pocket-shaped formation surrounded his spaceship. Everyone hurried to the porthole and scanned the starry sky outside. Suddenly, their expressions changed drastically. They saw that there were dynasty battleships all around them, and their cannons were all aimed at their spaceship. The Red Empire? Are they here to capture us? The melancholic prince and the guild members immediately panicked. Could it be that our whereabouts have been exposed? But we clearly did not hit any buoys on the way. Also, how did they know that we were planning to smuggle the virus? After being stunned for a few seconds, the melancholic prince suddenly came back to his senses. He hurriedly shouted, "Stop daydreaming. Everyone, quickly go offline." "Don't be." Before he could finish, a calm voice suddenly sounded behind them. "Don't be what?" Everyone's body stiffened, and their necks stiffened as they turned to look at the center of the cabin. A tall black figure had appeared inside the spaceship at some point, and his eyes were flashing with lightning as he scanned them indifferently. This face was all too familiar to the players. Black Star. The melancholic prince was shocked. Everyone present was stunned. They originally thought that even if someone came to capture them, it would only be some regular fleets and supers. No one would have thought that it would be someone as important as Black Star himself. While he was panicking, the gloomy prince also felt a subtle sense of flattery. The next moment, Han Zhao's eyes flashed, and a dazzling aura exploded. Boom! The energy shockwave spread out and slammed everyone against the wall. Han Zhao had controlled the damage, and this attack was not very powerful. It was mainly to make the players enter combat mode and not be able to go offline. "I'll fight you to the death." The melancholic prince gritted his teeth and pulled out a slender alloy rapier. He then slashed it toward Han Zhao's throat. Players were not afraid of death and dared to attack anyone. Even if the opponent was strong, it was impossible for them to just give up. The melancholic prince wished that he was killed by Black Star so that he could revive somewhere else, such as in the main city, and not be captured. However, such thoughts were useless in front of Han Zhao, who was familiar with the characteristics of the players. He casually grabbed the rapier and snapped it in half. Then he grabbed Melancholic Prince's head and threw him to the ground. Melancholic Prince was inflicted with a stun debuff. Han Zhao carefully controlled his strength, afraid that he would accidentally kill the Melancholic Prince. He had no choice. Although the players were much stronger than before, they were still as fragile as bubbles in front of him. Han Zhao did not let the others go either. He did not need to use machinery. With his current physical fitness, he could heavily injure this group of players with a few punches and kicks. He then took out the immortal binding rope, the electromagnetic binding chain, and tied everyone up tightly. The Dynasty's battleships surrounded the spaceship and controlled it tightly. The Dynasty's soldiers boarded and searched the spaceship. A large pile of mechanical products piled up into a small hill. Han Zhao inspected them and found a few communicators that were infected with the virus. He glanced at the dejected, depressed prince and his group and slowly said, "I'm not sure. You are suspected of smuggling the virtual mutiny virus and endangering public safety and the order of the universe. Now that you have been caught, do you have anything to say? No, I have sinned deeply. People like me do not deserve to live in this world. I plead for the death penalty, melancholic prince said righteously. Those who did not know him would think that he wanted to sacrifice himself for justice. Han Xiao secretly rolled his eyes. You're so naughty. Han Xiao secretly rolled his eyes. At this moment, he suddenly paused, chuckled, and said, Are you guys curious? Are you curious as to why the Empire knew that you were hired and set up a trap here? Hearing this, the people from the Western Sword Guild also realized that this was a job from the black market. Logically speaking, it should have been very secretive and should not have been leaked. You guys have been monitoring our communications? Melancholic Prince guessed carefully. No. Han Xiao shook his head. Then, did someone leak the information? Not really. Then what is it? Melancholic Prince was confused. Han Xiao smiled and faced everyone's curious gazes. Of course, it's because the person who hired you is the dynasty. These words were like a bolt from the blue. Melancholic Prince and the others trembled. Their jaws almost fell to the ground, and their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. What did you say? Melancholic Prince almost jumped up in shock. His face was filled with disbelief. Our anonymous employer is the 3 universal civilizations? How is that possible? What reason do you have to do this? Han Xiao chuckled and casually said, What do you think? The 3 universal civilizations already knew that there would definitely be people who would ignore the big picture and try to hide and smuggle the virus. Therefore, the 3 universal civilizations also sent people to spread the job on the black market to expose the restless elements and make it easier to capture them. Do you really think that the 3 universal civilizations will let the black market get away scot-free when facing a disaster? Melancholic Prince was dumbfounded. He was annoyed at being tricked, angry at being tricked, and regretful of falling into the trap. At this moment, he only wanted to roar at the sky. You guys are baiting the law. Looking at everyone's sorrowful expressions, Han Zhao's smile became more and more playful. The employer behind this group of players was naturally not the 3 universal civilizations, but he purposely said this to implant the players with the impression that he was baiting them. As long as this group of people made a post, those chaotic evil players would be able to calm down a little. This was because no one could be sure that the job they received on the black market was real or a trap set by the 3 universal civilizations. With such preconceived suspicions, the number of players who dared to take the risk and cause trouble would definitely decrease greatly. By capturing this group of people, they would be able to set an example and achieve twice the result with half the effort, saving a lot of effort. In short, this was a drastic move. Han Technician was not just bluffing. In fact, he was also planning to implement this plan of baiting the black market. However, in order to achieve this, he first had to control the black market channels. Otherwise, the black market would definitely destroy this plan in order to protect their own reputation and would not cooperate. All kinds of thoughts flashed through his mind. Han Xiao took out the space-time amber and smiled kindly at everyone. Since the evidence is conclusive, then you can serve your sentence. Melancholic Prince was shocked. His face was filled with panic as he struggled with all his might. No. I beg you. Please don't use the space-time amber. I beg for the death penalty. Let me die. Don't come over. Unfortunately, Melancholic Prince's struggle was futile. Under the panicked gazes of the others, his expression froze and was sealed in the space-time amber. Han Xiao did the same and sealed all the Western Sword Guild players who were rolling on the ground begging for death. The entire guild was captured in one fell swoop. That's enough. It's enough to intimidate the other players. Han Xiao clapped his hands. He had already tested the effects of the space-time amber on the players. The players' consciousness could still freely log in and out of the game, but their bodies would not disappear like when they went offline. Instead, they would be fixed in the amber. It was equivalent to not being able to change the location where they went online. No matter how many times the players logged in, they could only return to the body sealed in the amber. This meant that as long as the players were sealed in the space-time amber, they would not be able to use their own characteristics to escape imprisonment using tricks such as logging in, out of the game, and resurrection. It was like being punished for cheating. They would not be able to move or escape. It was impossible for these players not to have thought of the consequences of being caught, but they had an inexplicable confidence. First, because they could resurrect elsewhere after death, they felt that the chances of being caught were very small. Second, because they were lucky that the disaster did not befall them. Everyone thought that they were lucky. Han Xiao was not surprised by this. Just like how some people wanted to cheat, even though they knew that they would be banned, they deserved to be punished. He did not plan to release the Western Sword Guild so easily. He wanted to use this method to intimidate the others and make an example out of them. He wanted to let the others see the consequences of getting their accounts banned, so as to curb the evil trend on the forums. He wanted to get rid of the pests in the vegetable fields so that others would not lead the potential leaks astray. Similarly, he was not worried that these players would not post on the forums. Their bodies were sealed, so they could not do anything. What else could they do other than flood the group chat? Furthermore, these people had fallen into his hands. With the players' personalities, they would most likely want to take revenge. As long as they believed what he said, the only way to take revenge would be to expose the so-called baiting law enforcement and destroy the 3 universal civilizations plan. The situation was under control. Han Xiao shook his head with a smile. He summoned Philip to hack into the artificial intelligence of this spaceship and search through all the communication records. The true identity of this anonymous employer was also the target of his investigation. Philip's efficiency was very high. Following the clues of the quantum network, he quickly found clues of the anonymous employer. Master Hum, I found it. This employment was issued by a broker organization as the intermediary guarantor. This broker organization is one of the managers of the black market. They have a very good reputation and are deeply trusted by countless black market mercenaries and employers. They can be considered the black market's version of the mercenary alliance. Therefore, there should be clues about this employer. However, this broker organization has been the manager of the black market for many years. As the intermediary guarantor with a long history, they will not leak the employer's information. Han Xiao glanced at the information and nodded to himself. He had also heard of the name of this black market broker organization. It was a very reputable black market manager. Many black market hires came from this organization. It could be said that although this organization claimed to be neutral, without their consent, those anonymous employment against the virus would not have been able to circulate on the black market. They were undoubtedly involved in the crimes of adding fuel to the fire. Looks like I'll have to start with this black market manager first. Han Xiao's eyes flashed. He turned around and patted the captain's shoulder. Let's go. Our destination is this broker organization's headquarters in the ancient Star Desert. At the same time, just as the Dynasty fleet was heading to the next destination, Depressed Prince, who was sealed in the space-time amber, logged onto the forums and posted without hesitation. Just as Han Xiao expected, Depressed Prince used the tone of a victim to warn others and take revenge on the 3 universal civilizations. He angrily exposed the 3 universal civilizations' baiting law enforcement operation. Chapter 1111. Blood and Tears. The conspiracy behind the intelligent plague. Emergency notice. Those black market hires to smuggle the virus are a scam. It's very likely to be the bait of the 3 universal civilizations. I'm the player who shared the virus smuggling hires on the forums. An hour ago, I brought my guild to the edge of the ancient Star Desert and was ambushed by the 3 universal civilizations. Black Star personally took action and wiped out our entire guild. Now, we're all sealed in the space-time amber. I don't know how long it'll take for us to be unsealed. I'm probably going to be crippled. I didn't know where the news got leaked. Luckily, Black Star thought that we had nowhere to run and felt that we couldn't leak the secret, so he revealed the plan of the 3 universal civilizations. I was really shocked. I didn't expect the 3 universal civilization spies to be among those anonymous hires on the black market. Their goal is to lure out those who dare to accept the mission and take them out one by one. It's too scary. Currently, other than our guild, no one else knows about this secret. I'm posting now because I can't bear to see other brothers being scammed by the three universal civilizations. Therefore, I'm warning everyone not to fall into Black Star's trap. In order to prove that he was not lying, Depressed Prince even posted a screenshot and a video of Black Star speaking. As soon as the post was posted, it was like a lit match was thrown into a pool of methane. The players from the Troublemakers and Order faction all exploded. Triple treason. Shocking. So those black market hires are actually baiting the system? Sigma. Degree, winky face. More important things to consider, I knew it. How could those lawful factions not care about such an oversight? It turns out that they had another plan. The three universal civilizations are cunning and scheming, sinister and cunning. This move was played beautifully **** military chief. Black Star is indeed Black Star. Just like his name, he's really black-hearted. Qingningzi. Haha, I'm dying of laughter. We're those little biscuits who are envious of the ancient Star Desert players. Why aren't they saying anything? Slay people, but not slay karma. In this case, the factions of this main storyline are very clear. Those who oppose the disaster will stand on the side of order, while those who support the disaster will go against the three universal civilizations. I really admire the courage of these players. If I don't go to hell, who will? Degree. The Order faction players who were against adding fuel to the fire started to gloat. On the other hand, the players who were in favor of spreading the disaster were all shocked and speechless. This was especially true for those players who had been tempted by the sky-high rewards and had already accepted the job on the black market. They were all shocked, and a large number of them hurriedly canceled the job, afraid that they would also be baited by the three universal civilizations. Tender cow eats old grass. Let me see who is causing trouble. Black Star shows his head out of the bush. JPG. Army Commanders PP. Black Star. Pa. Your account is gone. Vessel hashtag. Immortal Bootlicker Society. Sigh. If it weren't for the OP, we would still be in the dark, and we would also be caught by the law enforcers. I won't say much, but the OP saved our lives. That's very loyal of you. I'll drink to show my respect. Peachful Network Senior Member. In order to get this information, the OP has sacrificed too much. Good people live a peaceful life. P.S. If the OP is prepared to change his account, I can donate 100 anus. Fooding Support Group Gu Urpeo. My condolences to the OP. Carrot. Fish don't piss. My condolences +1. Hella's Liquor number 666. Brother, I think you should stop calling yourself Depressed Prince and change it to Depressed Prince *** winky face. It was not that no one doubted the authenticity of the post, but after seeing the screenshots and videos posted by Depressed Prince, they could only admit that it was the truth. Melancholic Prince's post caused the majority of players to be on guard. Many of them were truly shocked, and they became paranoid. They did not want to harm Melancholy. He thought that he had successfully destroyed the three universal civilizations' fishing operation and vented his anger. But in reality, his actions did not escape Han Zhao's calculations. A pair of eyes hidden in the dark were watching the forums. Seeing that so many players believed the fishing operation and rejected the missions to smuggle the virus, Han Zhao knew that his actions had worked. He could not help but smile. Depressed. Oh, this guy had changed his name. Depressed Prince had done a good job this time, so his sentence could be reduced by a few minutes. Although this guy was still in the dark, immersed in the fantasy of venting his anger. Ancient Star Desert, planet Strange Gold. This planet did not belong to any civilization. Many years ago, it was contracted by a few financial groups and transformed into a galactic neutral port. Later, the galactic black market took over and turned it into a transit supply station for the Grey organizations. It was quite famous in the ancient Star Desert. Traces of various wanted criminals and a large number of Grey organizations could be seen here. At the same time, many Grey organizations had their headquarters or branches here. Due to some tacit understanding and transactions, the galactic civilizations tacitly allowed such Grey transit stations to exist and would not send guards to suppress them. Although this place was chaotic, it was not a lawless area. The large organizations in the black market would often establish order here. The organization in charge of Planet Strange Gold was one of the black market managers, the Black Index. This was an organization of brokers. There were many types of organizations in the black market management, such as mercenaries, arms dealers, mining teams, and so on. Among them, the one with the most power was the broker industry. They walked the path of the upper class, wandering between different civilizations, and had complicated relationships. They provided protection and guarantees for other black market organizations. The Black Index was such an organization, and their business was even richer. They used the reputation they had accumulated over the years to provide guarantees for the employment and auctions in the black market. They also had the function of an intermediate exchange, which was basically the black market's version of a bank. The security of funds had always been a concern of the gray organizations, and all the financial transactions of the Black Index were confidential. Countless black money flowed through them every day, radiating to the entire galactic black market. One could imagine how powerful they were. Huge power required an equal amount of strength to maintain, not to mention in the gray world where the strong preyed on the weak. The Black Index had enough funds to maintain a huge military force. At the same time, they had a beyond grade a protector behind them. These factors ensured that the Black Index had a very high position among the black market managers. The upper echelons of the organization were called indexers. The leader was the chief indexer, followed by the second, third, and so on. There were a total of 5 deputy leaders, all the way to the 6th. At this moment, in the headquarters of the Black Index organization in Planet Strange Gold, the third indexer, who was in charge of the Ancient Star Desert business, was standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling window in his office. He looked up at the stars in the dark sky and frowned slightly. His adjutant, who was wearing an exquisite silver-black uniform, walked into the room and asked curiously, "Third indexer, what are you thinking about?" "Nothing. I just feel a little uneasy all of a sudden." The third indexer raised his hand and rubbed between his eyebrows. He was a little distracted. As a mixed-blood immortal, the third indexer had a special talent. His sixth sense was very sharp, and he could occasionally vaguely sense fragments of the future. Since a few days ago, he had been constantly distracted and felt uneasy, as if something bad was about to happen. "Then I'll go get you some medicine to calm you down first." The adjutant turned around and was about to leave. "No need, I'm fine." The third indexer stopped him, turned around, and asked casually, Tell me, what do you have to report to me?" "It's like this." The adjutant took out a report and said with a serious expression, "I found some rumors. It's rumored that the 3 universal civilizations are secretly spreading the black market employment on a large scale to catch the black market mercenaries." "Where did you get this information from? The rumors on the internet?" The third indexer could not help but frown. No, there are no such rumors on the Ancient Star Desert's star field network. I heard some people talking about it in private, so I did some investigation in secret and found out that I don't know how this rumor started. I think it might be a hidden danger, so I'm here to report it to you." The third indexer shook his head. "The source of your information is unreliable and not trustworthy. As the guarantor of the black market employment, although we accept applications from anonymous employers, we will still investigate to a certain extent. This kind of phishing is destroying our reputation. We can tolerate it once or twice, but if they want to use our reputation to carry out this plan on a large scale, there's no way the organization won't notice anything." "You're right. I did something unnecessary." The adjutant nodded. "You didn't do anything wrong. It's good to have such vigilance." The third indexer continued to look out of the window and said earnestly, "We're the lighthouse of order in the black market. On one hand, we rely on our powerful organization, and on the other hand, we rely on the reputation we've accumulated over the years. The criminals of the gray organizations believe in our professional integrity, which is our core competitiveness. At any time, even in the face of death, we can't break the rules of integrity, confidentiality, fairness, and safety. Otherwise, will damage the foundation of the organization and the order of the entire black market. Understood. The adjutant took note of it and admired him in his heart. Swoosh! As soon as he said that, a remote communication screen popped up beside the two of them, showing the panicked face of an observer. Not good. The radar detected a dynasty fleet approaching. They're not hiding their tracks. Their destination is planet Strange Gold. They didn't notify us in advance. The third indexer's expression changed. His sixth sense became stronger and stronger. Normally, the three universal civilizations would not visit the gray transit station so openly. Today, however, the dynasty's fleet had suddenly arrived as an uninvited guest. Clearly, they did not come with good intentions. He immediately thought of the intelligent plague. Other than this, the dynasty did not seem to have any other reason to come. However, the third indexer was someone who had been through a lot. He calmed down very quickly and said with a deep voice, "Ask around. Ask around. Who is the leader of this fleet?" The dynasty had a huge background, but he was also an important person in the galaxy with power and influence. He even had a beyond grade A protector as his backer, so the third indexer still had the confidence to talk to the dynasty. Thinking of this, he secretly made a decision. If the dynasty's leader did not have a high rank, he felt that there was no need to go out of his way to welcome him. He might as well wait here for the dynasty to come and talk to him. The adjutant communicated for a while. Suddenly, he shuddered, swallowed, and said with a trembling voice, Third indexer, the commander of this dynasty fleet seems to be Black Star." As soon as he said that, the third indexer's expression changed drastically, and he lost his cool. Without another word, he rushed out of the door and ordered anxiously, "Quick, quick, quick! Prepare the vehicle for me. I'm going to the dock to welcome His Excellency Black Star." If it were a normal officer of the dynasty, the third indexer could still put on airs because of his identity. However, the one who came was the infamous Black Star. Even the strongest protector of the black market had become his collection. How could he have the guts to stay at home and wait for Black Star to come? The dynasty fleet sailed into the spaceport. As soon as Han Xiao stepped onto the dock, he saw the third indexer and a group of subordinates coming to welcome him respectfully. The two of them met. Han Xiao did not bother to greet him, but said that he wanted to talk about a deal. He asked the third indexer to lead the way to the meeting room. Under the careful escort of the third indexer, the group arrived at the Black Index's planet branch and sat down in the meeting room. After sitting down, Han Xiao looked up at the third indexer opposite him and said slowly, "You're a smart person. I'm sure you know why the dynasty is here, so I won't beat around the bush with you." The Black Index provided guarantees for anonymous hires, which led to a large number of black market mercenaries smuggling the virus in the ancient Star Desert, increasing the risk of the virus leaking. Now, on behalf of the Black Star Corps and the Red Empire, I ask you to stop providing guarantees for anonymous hires and release the information of these anonymous hires so that we can capture them more easily. Impossible. The third indexer rejected immediately. This is not in line with the mission of the Black Index. We will never leak the information of our users. Han Xiao interrupted him and said with a deep tone, "Is the mission of your black market organization higher than the ruling rights of the three universal civilizations? Or is it that the Black Index is determined to spread the disaster and put the entire universe in danger?" The third indexer hurriedly protested. "Of course not. We've only been neutral. Before and after the outbreak of the intelligent plague, nothing changed. We're just maintaining this platform. Don't try to brush me off like that." Han Xiao tapped the table and slowly said, "If you don't do anything, you'll leak the virus. If you don't do anything, you're tacitly allowing others to leak the virus. If you don't do anything, you're adding fuel to the fire. The current situation does not allow for the existence of neutral parties. Neither I nor the three universal civilizations want to see anyone speculating in a serious disaster." Hearing this, the third indexer's expression changed. His bad feeling came true. He felt that Black Star was using this as an excuse to take away the black market guarantee platform that they had been operating for a long time in the ancient Star Desert. If it was just Black Star alone, he would not be so helpless. However, Black Star was here on orders, which meant that he had the imperial sword in his hand, representing the attitude of the three universal civilizations. While the Black Index's organization was spread throughout the various star fields, it would be a piece of cake for the three universal civilizations to crush it. Furthermore, the ancient star desert was sealed now, so they could not get any help from the outside world. The third indexer was unwilling, but he had no other choice. He could not even inform the headquarters in the ancient star desert, so he could only brace himself and ask for help. Your Excellency Black Star, do you really have to do this? We have His Excellency URU behind us. Like you, he's also a beyond grade A. Han Xiao was amused. Oh, look at you. Are you trying to threaten me or something? You got guts. Putting aside the fact that your protector can't come back, even if he does, what can you do? The third indexer clenched his teeth, glanced at the dynasty soldiers beside him, and mustered up his courage. I know what you're trying to do. You want to use this opportunity to infiltrate the black market and control some channels. The three universal civilizations have tacitly approved of your actions now. But what about after the disaster is over? They won't let you stretch your hands so far and will definitely accept your results. Therefore, what you're doing now will only benefit the three universal civilizations in the end. Why do you have to be so aggressive? How dare you? How dare you sow discord? The dynasty officer beside him was enraged. He pulled out his gun and pointed it at the third indexer's head. This time, Han Xiao raised his hand, signaled for the dynasty officer to put away his weapon, and said with a smile, "You don't know me. You don't understand me. Although I'm just a profit-seeking person, I won't stand on the wrong side when it comes to such a major issue." The third indexer clenched his teeth and tried his best to provoke him. The three universal civilizations tacitly approved of you because they're using you. You're the one who offended the various black market organizations, and the three universal civilizations will then come and take the fruits of victory. Is the Great Black Star willing to be used? Hee, it's everyone's responsibility to eliminate evil. So what if I offended you? Han Xiao smiled playfully. Furthermore, using each other is a mutual matter. It's hard to say who benefits and who loses. He was definitely going to take the Black Indexer this time. Instead of calling it a negotiation, it was more like a notification. The ancient Star Desert was now an isolated island. Under the catalysis of the disaster, the hypocrisy of equality had been torn off, and the face of a dictator was completely revealed. With the three universal civilizations backing him up, he had nothing to worry about. Under such circumstances, other than the galactic civilizations that were protected, the other private organizations were just food in front of the sharks. As long as they did not cooperate, they would be wiped out. Seeing this, the third indexer knew that he could not go against this. It was useless to be stubborn. He immediately gave up and leaned back with a hopeless expression. I can't resist anyway. I'll leave all the channels of the Black Indexer in the ancient Star Desert to you. Hearing this, the adjutant looked at the third indexer in disbelief, questioning him. That's not what you said just now. Didn't you say that you can't destroy the reputation of the organization, even if you die? Sensing the adjutant's gaze, the third indexer glared back. What can I brag a little? Black Star is sitting opposite me. My life is more important. If you want to die, you die. Only by knowing when to yield and when to stand tall can you show your true colors. The weather's been getting colder recently. I have a feeling that I'm going to catch a cold. Underscore, smiley face, 3 underscore. Chapter 1112. The Black Index branch on planet Strange Gold controlled half of the galactic black market in the ancient Star Desert. Controlling this place meant that half of the galactic black market was under their control. In the main control room, the third indexer ordered the operators to open the firewall and let Han Xiao insert a data probe, injecting a large number of surveillance programs. He also pulled up the recent anonymous black market hires and checked the background files. The Black Index's internal database recorded the real identities of some anonymous hires, most of which were obtained through investigation. As the middleman, the remuneration of the hires would go through the Black Index before being transferred to the mercenaries. Therefore, it was not difficult to find out the identity of the anonymous hires based on the source and flow of the funds. Han Xiao quickly copied the huge amount of files that the Black Index had accumulated over the years in the quantum network. He glanced at the trembling third indexer beside him and joked, "You guys aren't as reliable as you say. You've been secretly investigating the identities of the anonymous hires. These files are the hires' weakness and bargaining chips. Don't tell me you're just doing it for fun." The third indexer wiped his sweat and said, "We're just checking the reliability of the transactions and evaluating the credibility of the hires. However, we're only doing it for the sake of keeping records. We've never leaked anything. As for the bargaining chips, cough cough, we're doing business in the black market after all. We have to have some backup plans." I know. It's the black market after all. No one is clean." Han Xiao chuckled. The third indexer could only laugh along with him, lowering his head and lowering his head. He had no choice. The dynasty's fleet was on standby on the planet, so he could only be soft to the end. This time, Han Xiao stroked his chin and said, "Oh, I remember something. I brought the dynasty's fleet here, and you came out to welcome me. There are many people on this planet, so the news will spread sooner or later. Then, rumors will definitely appear on the black market, thinking that you guys are being threatened by the three universal civilizations, which will cause the hires and hires of the hires. This way, the three universal civilizations' plan to lure out the unstable elements will be greatly discounted." Yeah, the third indexer did not know how to answer. "However, I think you should be glad." Han Xiao smiled and said, "You might even send someone to deliberately spread the news on the black market, saying that the black index is controlled by someone else. This will remind the other members of the black market and warn them not to use the black market platform for hiring during this time. You will try to stop the damage to your organization's reputation." The third indexer had a bitter taste in his mouth. He did have such thoughts. Although he was forced to compromise, he still wanted to cut his losses. "Don't worry, I won't stop you from doing that." Hearing that, the third indexer was confused. "Didn't you control us so that you could secretly monitor the movements of the black market and fish out the restless elements? If the black market knows that we're not reliable and doesn't use our guarantee platform, then what's the use of controlling us? Oh, it seems that you are very adapted to the change of identity. You have entered the role of a collaborator so quickly and are starting to think for us." Han Xiao laughed and clapped his hands. The third indexer's face froze, but he did not dare to say anything. Han Xiao raised his brows, turned around, called the Imperial Fleet officer, and said with a smile, "Later, split the Dynasty fleet up and head to every gray transit station in the Ancient Star Desert that has a black market organization. Remember to make a big fuss and let everyone see you." Hearing that, the third indexer roughly understood Black Star's plan. "You purposely alerted the enemy and let the black market know that the black index is compromised. Then, you pretended to go to every black market organization to negotiate, creating the illusion that the three universal civilizations control the entire black market in the Ancient Star Desert, planting the seeds of suspicion in most people's hearts. This way, even if the other black market organizations did not fall into Black Star's hands, with the precedent of the Black Index, those employers who pursued secrecy and safety would naturally not dare to take the risk, fearing that they would be exposed. Black Star could force all the black market organizations in the Ancient Star Desert to compromise, but now he had chosen another path. The way the third indexer saw it, Black Star was leaving himself a way out. This method was not so forceful, and he would not offend the black market organizations like he did today. He would not benefit the three universal civilizations. Some of the black market organizations might even think that Black Star was being merciful. I understand. The third indexer hesitated. This method is indeed gentler, but there are pros and cons. Han Xiao did not answer. He knew what the other party meant. Forcefully controlling all the black market organizations was the best way to catch a bunch of people who wanted to cause trouble. Although this method was less troublesome, it would alert the enemy and make them continue to lay low. However, the way he saw it, there was no way to catch all the unstable factors. They were like leaks, harvesting a batch and growing another batch. If he did not stop the black market mercenaries, there would always be people who would take the risk for huge benefits, making the border of the ancient star desert a mess. The three universal civilizations would have no choice but to spend a lot of effort to hunt them down. This was the drawback of this method. Furthermore, if they caught too many people, they would not be able to hide it. It was better to let the ancient star desert know that the three universal civilizations controlled the black market channels and set up an inescapable net. This would eliminate the unstable factor's hopes of getting revenge. This way, the effect of the plan would change from fishing to risk prevention, reducing the number of people who would take the risk. Fishing was indeed effective, but it would also create more unstable factors. As the rulers, the three universal civilizations were more suitable to use righteous methods. Fishing was a dirty method that could be used occasionally, but it was not suitable to be used in the long term. Putting away his thoughts, Han Xiao glanced at the third indexer's submissive look and clicked his tongue. Not bad. I thought I would have to kill a lot of people before you would compromise. I didn't expect you to be so smart and not give me a chance. As long as you're satisfied. The third indexer was helpless. However, I still like your rebellious look. Recover. Han Xiao could not help but tease him. Since when was I rebellious? The third indexer thought to himself about Han Xiao's bad taste, but on the surface, he still straightened his back obediently. This time, Philip finished sifting through the files and locked onto a bunch of employers who requested to smuggle the virus. Submit this list and let the three universal civilizations troops work together to destroy these organizations. Han Xiao glanced through it. The information was very detailed, covering all walks of life. He did not plan to go easy on these people. Apart from making an example out of them, he also wanted to increase his intelligent plague mission rating. He searched carefully for a while and found an organization that had hired immortals many times. Depressed Prince was also hired by them. It was a black market arms dealer called the Keppel Financial Group. I'll take care of this organization personally. Remember to post the video of the execution online, somewhere in the ancient star desert, in the Keppel Financial Group's fortress. On the dock, boxes were being loaded onto ships. Keppel V was patrolling around with his subordinates. How much longer? About 2 more hours. Speed up as soon as possible. Keppel V's tone was a little impatient. 7 or 8 days ago, the dynasty's fleet had entered the Black Index, and the news had only spread yesterday. All the anonymous employers who issued the mission to smuggle the virus were shocked. Keppel V also felt uneasy, so he decided to abandon this fortress and speed up the transfer of assets. At this time, he was organizing people to empty the fortress. While he was waiting anxiously, a member of the exploration team suddenly sent him an emergency message. Warning, the Outer Fleet has discovered a small Red Empire fleet approaching. We have sent a communication request, but the other party has not responded. The three universal civilizations are here. Keppel V's heart skipped a beat, and he hurriedly walked to the window with a group of officers. Looking into the distant starry sky, he saw a few dynasty spaceships slowly approaching. There don't seem to be many of them. They don't look like they're here to fight. Seeing this, Keppel V heaved a sigh of relief. With so few spaceships, he felt like they were here to negotiate. Thinking of this, Keppel V tidied up his clothes, making himself look more formal, and gave an order. Guard fleet, don't act rashly. Send a communication request in my name. I'll talk to them and see what they're here for. However, as soon as he said that, the dynasty's spaceship suddenly stopped in the distance. Why did they stop? Keppel V was stunned, his face filled with confusion. However, at the very next moment, countless machines suddenly appeared out of thin air in the distance, rapidly assembling into a gigantic humanoid mechanical construct. It wore a large robe and held a long blade in its hand. Its body was so large that it could penetrate the heavens and penetrate the earth, even larger than the entire fortress. Before Keppel V and the others could recover from their shock, they saw the gigantic machine hurl out its long blade. Like a hot knife cutting through butter, it cut through all of Keppel V's escort fleet without any hindrance and headed straight for the fortress. At this moment, All the members on the dock, including Keppel V, stopped what they were doing and stared blankly at the huge blade that was rapidly approaching. Everyone's mind went blank. Swoosh! The celestial punishment edge that was thrown out easily pierced through Keppel Fortress. The blue psionic storm wrapped around the edge of the blade instantly turned the scattered remains of the fortress into powder, creating a dazzling firework in midair. The blade's momentum was unstoppable, and it pierced straight into the barren planet below, penetrating the strata and coming out from the other side of the planet, directly leaving a gap that connected the front and back of the planet. The large amount of psionic energy left behind by the celestial punishment edge created an irreversible high-energy chain reaction with the interior of the planet. Magma gushed up, and red-hot lava cracks appeared on the surface. The next moment, a blinding white light suddenly lit up, and the entire barren planet expanded from the inside, instantly exploding into pieces. The shockwave of the explosion spread out, and the mechanical deity pulled up the Emperor's robe. Layers of honeycomb-shaped high-density psionic shields blocked out the shockwave. At the same time, he raised his hand, and the celestial punishment edge automatically made an arc, passing through the energy storm of the planet's explosion and returning to his hand. This thing is quite powerful. Han Xiao somewhat understood why the Tyracles were so passionate about making special equipment for the mechanical deity. There was no other reason other than that it was really cool. After playing with the celestial punishment edge for a while, Han Technician deactivated the mechanical deity and returned to the spaceship. Check and see if there are any survivors. Is there even a need to check? The strong light of the planet's explosion made the faces of the dynasty's soldiers present extremely pale. It was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. It was as if the sound of everyone nervously swallowing their saliva could be heard. Philip, did you record it? Yes, then upload it to the internet. Intimidate those guys with ulterior motives and let them see the consequences of causing trouble. Han Xiao waved casually. He had no intention of talking to this organization at all. The evidence was conclusive, and there was nothing to talk about. He directly slashed them to show his firm attitude. After dealing with this small matter, Han Xiao waved at Harrison and the others, who were trembling all over, and gestured for them to come closer. Harrison had just witnessed Han Xiao casually shatter a planet while talking and laughing. The impact of this scene directly shattered his mental preparation. Even though he knew that Black Star was a top expert in the universe, he was still shocked. This is the power of a peak beyond grade, eh? So scary. Is he still human? Harrison's teeth chattered. He carefully approached Han Xiao and stuttered. Your Excellency Black Star, do you have any orders? Why are you so nervous? It's not like I'm going to eat you. Han Xiao chuckled and patted Harrison's shoulder. The layout of the crackdown on illegal hiring is almost done. The search for the virus core has to be put on the agenda. I want to ask you, where do you think the virus core will be hidden? How would I know? Don't be nervous. Just say it casually. Where do you think it will be hidden? Harrison calmed himself down and carefully said, You said before that the virus core is just a set program used to monitor the overall virus infection situation. Then, it must be exchanging data with the virus packets. In order to disguise itself, it should not be an interactive terminal. Otherwise, it would have been found long ago. Therefore, I think that if we count the node routes that the data sent out by the virus packets and compare them to find the intersection point, we might be able to find it. Han Xiao interrupted him and said, The 3 universal civilizations have thought of this long ago and have been doing this. Every virus packet will send out a large amount of fake data to confuse the public. The routes are very complicated, and there are too many data intersection points. We can only filter through them one by one. However, not only is the virus core very secretive, but it also seems to change location at any time. Therefore, the 3 universal civilizations have never been able to find it. Then I have no ideas. I can't help you. No, I don't need your ideas. Han Xiao smiled and said, The next time the 3 universal civilizations count the intersection points of the new phase, I'll need you to help me choose some nodes. Maybe you'll be lucky. You might find it right away. Don't joke around. Harrison was terrified. I'm not joking. Think about it. An antique you casually dug up turned out to be the source of such a dangerous disaster. In a way, your luck is heaven-defying. Harrison scratched his head and realized that it made sense. Indeed, my luck seems to have been pretty good since I was young. No matter what project I helped my family invest in, I seem to be able to earn money in the end. If not for the fact that it's easy to earn money, I wouldn't have come out to seek excitement in archaeology. Han Xiao did not know what he was thinking. Seeing that he was in a daze, he casually gave him a few words of encouragement. He then looked away and started a plan in his mind. He believed in the effect of the advanced luck glow. Even if he could not find it the first time, the chances of Harrison finding it a few more times would be higher than others. Furthermore, Han Xiao also planned to ask the three universal civilizations to contact the outside world and ask floating dragons, Old Man Aesop, for help. No matter how well the virus core was hidden, everyone was equal in the face of luck and prophecy. If science did not work, metaphysics would make up for it. On March 9th, year 730 on the galaxy calendar, Black Star was the emissary of the Red Empire and visited the Black Index organization that controlled the black market network. The two sides had a friendly discussion about supporting the three universal civilizations in controlling the disaster. After exchanging their opinions, they finally reached a consensus. The third indexer in charge of the ancient star desert area of the Black Index said that regardless of whether they were in the black or white side, every strong civilian organization should have a sense of historical responsibility. Stopping the intelligent plague disaster was the duty of every galactic resident, and the Black Index was willing to fully support the three universal civilizations. On the 17th of March, Black Star announced that the Keppel Financial Group had secretly hidden the virus and destroyed it in one strike. His might shook the entire universe. With this as a signal, the three universal civilizations cooperated and destroyed a large number of private organizations suspected of hiding the virus within a month. In April of the same year, the Red Empire's fleet visited all the black market organizations in the ancient Star Desert and suspected that they had taken control of all the black market channels in the ancient Star Desert. Black Star adhered to the principle of no negotiation and no compromise. He led his fleet to attack frequently. Everyone in the ancient Star Desert was in danger, and the number of illegal immigrants decreased greatly. On June 25th, the research team led by Madison created the first version of the special antivirus and scanning tool, which was put into use on a large scale. In July of the same year, the intelligent plague disaster was initially under control, and the three universal civilizations began to investigate the source of the virus on a large scale. Chapter 11:13. In a temporary military base of the Red Empire in the ancient Star Desert, Han Zhao's fleet was stationed here to replenish their supplies and repair their armor. Over the past few months, based on the feedback from the Black Market Network, he had wiped out the restless gray organizations in the ancient Star Desert, successfully scaring the remaining people into not daring to take the risk. They chose to listen obediently and did not dare to touch the virtual mutiny virus anymore. The environment in the star field had improved significantly. The wipeout was very effective. While Han Xiao was on his way, he was also trying to find the virus core. He had Harrison activate the luck glow multiple times to select the virus data intersection point. However, this time, the luck glow was not able to find the virus core. Even Old Man Aesop could not predict the location of this thing. Han Xiao guessed that the virus core was probably another lover of the goddess of luck. Her tastes were really mixed. He was responsible for eliminating the restless elements, while Madison was focused on research. Both sides had achieved results. Currently, the intelligent plague was under control for the time being. I thought you guys would be able to make a 3-piece antivirus set very quickly. I didn't expect it to take you a few months. This doesn't match your standards, Madison. In the upper management lounge of the military base, Han Xiao was chatting with Madison's remote projection. While talking, he was munching on some kind of fruit seed that looked like a melon seed. Madison shook his head. It's not easy to decode the virus code. Plus, to prevent the virus from breaking out, we have to avoid the trigger mechanism. Therefore, we have to be careful, which took a lot of time. A beyond grade of virtual mechanic could easily wipe out the virtual mutiny virus with his own ability, but was much more difficult to turn his ability into a universal tool. This was like an ordinary person who could naturally run and jump, but if he was asked to build a robot that could also run and jump, he would definitely be at a loss. What do the three universal civilizations plan to do now? It's still the problem of the trigger mechanism. In order to prevent the virus from breaking out, we can't let the infection rate of the virus drop drastically. Therefore, even if we have a firewall, we can't use it on a large scale for the time being. We have to remove all the infected nodes before installing it. It's also because of this that the virtual mutiny virus has infected more than half of the quantum network nodes in the ancient star desert over the past few months, despite the three universal civilizations trying their best to control it. If I remember correctly, large-scale wiping out the virus will trigger a mine, right? Han Xiao asked. That's right. Manison nodded. Therefore, the scanning tool that the three universal civilizations requested us to create cannot be discovered by the virus. They plan to first use the scanning tool to secretly lock onto all the currently infected nodes, then accurately release the antivirus tool to eliminate all the infected nodes at the same time. After that, they will immediately go online and install a firewall to prevent repeated infections. This way, even if the virus breaks out, the losses will be minimized. Although this method is a little troublesome, it's safe. Han Xiao had no objections to the three universal civilizations approach. It sounded quite reliable. However, he had some doubts in his heart. Logically speaking, the three universal civilizations in his previous life also handled the situation in the same way, with a firewall as a barrier. How did it end up becoming a universal disaster? Could it be that because I did a good job of cleaning up, I changed some unknown details? For example, someone tried to transport the virus out, but I stopped it now? Han Xiao secretly suppressed this doubt in his heart. Manison did not know what Han Xiao was thinking, so he continued to explain the three universal civilizations plan. Therefore, we have two plans now. The first is to eliminate the virus in one fell swoop, and the second is to find the virus core. It's the control valve for most of the triggering mechanisms. As long as it's eliminated, the risk can be further reduced, and we won't have to worry about the virus breaking out. You guys still have no clue about the virus core? It's hidden too well. Manison shook his head and did not reveal too much information. Han Xiao snorted. He felt that old Manison was not telling the truth, but there was no point in exposing him. In this regard, the two of them were competitors, and the other party would not be kind enough to share clues. All the beyond grade A mechanics who came to help wanted to obtain the virus core and analyze the complete virtual mutiny virus technology. Now that the disaster was under control and the danger was over, the competition for the virus core gradually surfaced. Even the three universal civilizations had the intention to compete. Han Xiao knew that he would not be able to get anything out of him, so he changed the topic and said, "Your research is done. Do you plan to stay in the research and development department?" "No, I'm planning to go out and do some activities. On one hand, I'm looking for clues about the virus core. On the other hand, I plan to visit the machinery faith." Machinery faith? Han Xiao raised his brows. He did not forget that the two of them had a conflict of interest in this regard. Manison had always occupied the position of the Lord God and wanted to monopolize the majority of the faith to maintain the bonuses of the key of Adeptus Mechanicus. For this reason, Manison had taken the initiative to make a move more than 10 years ago, causing Han Xiao to suffer a small loss. Back then, he had chosen to use his sole talent and put aside the dispute, avoiding the spotlight and developing in a low-profile manner. Only then did they continue to interact. "What? You have an idea?" Manison said with a half-smile. "Humph, can I?" Han Xiao narrowed his eyes. "Compared to 10 years ago, you've improved. However, it's still too early for you to challenge me again." Manison said calmly, "Don't be greedy for what's mine. Our relationship is quite good now, and it's good for you to maintain the current state. Don't blame me for not reminding you." I don't want to see you have any form of contact with the machinery faith." Then, the green remote projection disappeared, and Manison ended the call. Han Zhao's face darkened, and he was a little annoyed. This guy really has a dog's face, turning on me just like that. Also, since when did the machinery faith become your property? Shameless. Speaking of which, it's been more than 10 years since the last time I fought with him. Han Zhao narrowed his eyes, deep in thought. He opened the interface and looked at the huge amount of EXP he had accumulated. The Black Star Cup had been going on for a long time, and it had been providing him with extra EXP for the past few months. Now, he had accumulated quite a lot. He did some calculations and estimated that it was enough for him to level up from 320 to 335 to 337. With such a huge amount of EXP, as long as he took out a part of it, he would be able to max out all his potential points and level up all his class knowledges. After developing for so long, I feel like I can fight with Manison again. Han Zhao had avoided the spotlight for more than 10 years in order to develop and accumulate strength. Now that he had achieved great results, his mind once again occupied the high ground. The competition with the machinery faith was one thing, but to the current Han Zhao, another reason was the main reason. I'm not convinced. I want to fight with old Manison. Last time, I was not as strong as him, but I've endured it. Revenge is a dish best served cold. In the past, it was others who came knocking on my door and bullied my Philip. Now that we have some capital, it's my turn to take the initiative to challenge old Manison and see the difference in strength. Due to the existence of the Beyond Grade A Association, the strength of both sides would also affect the right to speak. Although Manison's term was still long, it was fine for him to make some preparations for the next election. At the same time, because of the Development Union, he did not need to worry about Manison's retaliation. As the president, old Manison had to set an example and not do anything in private, or would go against the original intention of the Development Union. Although Manison had helped him in the rescue of Hela, that was another matter altogether. Han Zhao would not accept the carrot for every blow. At most, he would find another chance to repay Manison's help. Various thoughts flashed through his mind. Han Zhao opened the skill list, selected a batch of blueprint skills, and leveled them up to the maximum level. Notifications kept popping up on the interface. One of your skills has been maxed out. You have received 1 potential point. One of your skills has been maxed out. You have received 1 potential point. Currently, Han Zhao was only 3 ultimate knowledges away from maxing out. Ultimate Mechanical Engineering was LV3, Mechanical Life Tender was LV4, and Endless Material Science was LV. 144 potential points were required. Even if he had some potential points in reserve, he would still need to max out more than 100 skills. The more skills he had, the higher the cost of leveling them up. Even low-level blueprints required a lot of experience, but it was not as exaggerated as the cost of leveling up his character. This meant that although the players could take advantage of the loopholes, they could not go overboard. They still had to put in a lot of effort to obtain more potential points. His experience decreased rapidly, and more than half of it was used up very quickly. The remaining was only enough to level up to LV 326. Han Zhao only managed to gather 144 potential points. Although leveling up would also give him potential points, he did not want to wait any longer. He had a lot of leaks and an endless supply of experience. He did not need to be calculative. Furthermore, Han Zhao was also very curious as to whether potential points would still be useful when all his knowledges were maxed out. Looking at the huge sum of 144 potential points, Han Zhao took a deep breath and invested them all into the last 3 ultimate knowledges. Ultimate Mechanical Engineering has been leveled up to LV5 max. Mechanical Life Tender has been leveled up to LV5 max. Endless Material Science has been leveled up to LV5 max. All 60 of your class knowledges have been maxed out. You have received the first Sanctum Ability Fragment X1. You have received the talent Great Machinery Sage. The potential points you currently possess and will obtain in the future will be converted into awakening points in a 1:1 ratio. Usage 1. One awakening point can be converted into 100 free attribute points, irreversible. Usage 2. One awakening point can be used to level up a maxed-out skill by 1 level, irreversible. Usage 3. Increase the progress of the awakening of unique talents. Every one awakening point depends on the level of the unique talent, irreversible. Also, 100 awakening points can be used to activate the embryonic form of a unique talent, custom talent preference. Usage 4. Increase the quality of blueprints. Every one awakening point depends on the level of blueprints and the quality of blueprints, irreversible. Usage 5. Increase the progress of blueprints. Every one awakening point depends on the level of blueprints and the quality of blueprints, irreversible. Your ultimate mechanical engineering has been maxed out. Your ability, inspiration creation, has been activated. Whoa! Han Xiao was pleasantly surprised. As expected of a new talent brought by maxing out all his class knowledges. Not only did Machinery Great Sage provide all-round bonuses, but the increase was also very impressive. The increase to his combat strength was probably on the same level as Perfect Mechanical Sense. It could increase his overall combat strength by about 10%, a step further. Speaking of which, I wonder if all the maxed out talents for all 5 classes are Great Sage. Magic Great Sage? Sounds normal. Psychic Great Sage? This is a little strange. Esper Great Sage? Martial Arts Great Sage? Forget it. It would be more appropriate to call it Muscle Great Sage. The appearance of talents was still within Han Zhao's expectations, but the change in potential points gave him a pleasant surprise. In his previous life, no player had ever maxed out all the class knowledges, and this was the first time he had ever done so. With all the class knowledges maxed out, his potential points became awakening points. He carefully browsed through the introduction and became more and more excited. Compared to the simple use of potential points, awakening points were more useful. Converting free attribute points and increasing the upper limit of abilities were very practical, and there was no need to analyze them. He was more interested in the other 3 functions. Increasing the quality of blueprints. This thing seemed to be able to produce gold-grade blueprints. For example, if he took a low-grade pistol blueprint and threw in awakening points, the blueprint's technical level would automatically increase. If he threw in enough awakening points, he might be able to turn this blueprint into a gold-grade blueprint. Furthermore, the type of blueprint wouldn't change much. From an ordinary pistol with elementary gunpowder technology, it would eventually transform into a high-energy, portable planet-destroying weapon. It would be passed down in the same vein. On the other hand, awakening points could also increase the research progress of blueprints, which was perfect for inspiration creation. Inspiration creation had been gathering dust in the interface, and the prerequisite to activate it was max-level, ultimate mechanical engineering. The effect of this skill was to consume EXP to combine an unlimited number of blueprints and randomly synthesize one or more improved or fused blueprints. At the same time, it could make advanced settings and choose the orientation of the synthesized blueprints, such as attack, defense, or control. This skill was more stable than free manufacture, and it was the only way for players to spontaneously create gold-grade blueprints. However, the probability of getting a finished product in one go was extremely low. Most of the time, they would only get the prototype of a gold-grade blueprint or inspiration fragments, which could be used to increase the progress. The last use of awakening points, which Han Technician valued the most, was to use them to synthesize unique talents. Han Zhao's eyes flashed, and he muttered to himself, "Old Manison, Sorokin, and the others' unique talents might have come from this." Chapter 11:14. 100 Awakening Points for a Unique Talent. This cost was not low, but at least it pointed out a path. Han Xiao doubted that, with his luck, he would not be able to find anything even if he tried for 100 years. He estimated that the method of custom synthesis would be the same as when he created his own species talent, when he advanced to beyond Grade A. He would provide his preference and then proceed with random selection. The unique talent obtained after synthesis would only be in its embryonic form, and he would have to spend more awakening points to activate it. With all his class knowledges maxed out, potential points would become awakening points. It should be the same for Madison and the other mechanics. The difference was that, unlike him, Madison and the others could not freely allocate their awakening points. In that case, the other mechanics would not be able to decide what to do with their awakening points. It would most likely be a random effect. He guessed that it would be similar to a flash of inspiration during training or research. Although the cost is a little high, at least it's a stable way to obtain unique talents. Han Xiaoxin was overjoyed. He had been eyeing this thing for so many years, and he finally saw hope. However, the cost-performance ratio was still debatable. 100 awakening points was equivalent to 10,000 free attribute points. His current highest intelligence attribute was less than 30,000. If he exchanged them all for free attribute points, the increase would be huge. Only by obtaining a molding talent would it not be a loss. However, since it was called a unique talent, its effect should not be too bad. You get what you pay for. Han Technician still remembered Sorokin's unique talent, Swindler Sorokin. Just his intelligence and mystery attributes alone increased by 20%, as well as an additional 75% increase in Esper ability strength and skill level by 4. Old Mai's Virtual Technology Innovation Madison gave him a 175x Virtual Technology Enhancement Effect. Furthermore, it was the foundation of the indestructible Mecha Empire technology. Both of them were molding talents. True knowledge comes from practice. Although the cost is a little high, I still have to get one to see the effect. Han Xiao had just leveled up more than 100 blueprints, and he had spent all his potential points. He did not have enough experience to gather another 100 awakening points. Sigh, awakening points. Such an apt name. It's another huge EXP drain. I'll think about it after I promote. Han Xiao shook his head. The main reason he had maxed out all his classes was to obtain one more God's Trait transformation point when he promoted in the future. Now that he had achieved it, the level 340 promotion became his top priority once more. Other than these changes, the interface also notified him that he had obtained the first Sanctum skill fragment. Han Technician had already figured out the pattern. When he crossed the threshold of a certain mechanic class, he would receive a fragment of the first Sanctum. The first came from activating God's Trait transformation. The second came from creating his first universal treasure. The third came from the 5th stage of God's Trait transformation, and the 4th came from now. I'd like to see how many fragments are needed to make it whole. If you're so capable, why don't you give me 100 fragments? Han Xiao cursed in his heart. Overall, he was very satisfied with the effect of maxing out all his class knowledges. It had pointed out a new path for him to grow. The biggest difference between him and the other beyond grade, as was in this aspect, his growth path was clearly visible. At the same time, with Machinery Great Sage, the chances of challenging Madison would be higher. Last time, I suffered a loss in the virtual world. This time, I'm going to have a real fight with him. Han Xiao was eager to give it a try, his fighting spirit soaring. This kind of mentality could be explained simply. The wind has stopped, the rain has stopped, and I feel like I can do it again. Thud, thud, thud. Just as Han Xiao was sorting out the changes in his body, someone knocked on the door, and Harrison walked in. Over the past few months, Han Xiao had adhered to the principle of not wasting labor and had not let Harrison stay idle. Even if this guy was currently a criminal, Han Xiao did not mind letting him be his temporary secretary. Other than giving Harrison something to do, he also arranged for him to stay by his side so that it would be convenient for him to freeload the luck glow all the time. However, looking at the results, not only did he not freeload the luck glow, he even neutralized it quite a bit. It was a classic lose-lose situation. Of course, Han Technician would not admit it. He firmly believed that this was because the quality of Harrison's luck glow was not good enough. Fu Ding's luck glow was still the strongest. It was fine no matter how much he dragged him down. Seeing him enter, Han Xiao closed the interface and asked casually, "What's up? Do you have anything to report?" "Your Excellency Black Star, The Dynasty fleet wants me to tell you that they will temporarily leave your team and return to normal to carry out other missions. What happened? Han Xiao was curious. The captain told me that this is a mission sent by the Dynasty's upper echelons. They said that there's a problem with a star system civilization, and it's not suitable for you to appear. What exactly is going on? I took a report from them. Take a look. Harrison took out a document and showed it to Han Xiao on the virtual screen. Han Xiao skimmed through it and immediately understood. Over the past few months, the various civilizations in the ancient star desert had seen the big picture and had been cooperating with the three universal civilizations on the surface. They did not cause any trouble like the black market. However, after the three universal civilizations announced that the three-piece antivirus set was completed, some civilizations seemed to feel that the disaster was under control and would not cause any serious consequences, so they caused a wave of trouble. Three of the star system civilizations involved were the Tiger race, the White Hair race, and the Furians. They were not smuggling the virus, but suspected of using the virus to attack their opponents. The Tiger race and the Furians were both in the same star system and bordered each other. They were sworn enemies and often had conflicts. The White Hair race was in another neighboring star system and only bordered the Tiger race. The relationship between the two was relatively cold. The situation was roughly like this. Not long ago, a mechanical rebellion broke out on an important administrative planet of the Tiger race. This was a group of mechanical bodies infected with the virtual mutiny virus. Because they had been disconnected from the internet for too long, the trigger mechanism took effect, and these mechanical bodies were reprogrammed by the virus to kill life forms. The virus outbreak was limited to this group of mechanical bodies, and there were not many of them. The quantum network connection device of each of them had been removed long ago, so they could not go online and could not affect the other nodes of the planet. Therefore, the planet's guards easily annihilated this group of mechanical bodies, but there were still casualties. After investigation, a rather realistic reason for the disaster spread on the internet, which was that this group of mechanical bodies was actually the material for the Tiger race to study the virtual mutiny virus. They accidentally went out of control, which led to this disaster. After the news spread, the Tiger race citizens were in an uproar. The public opinion went out of control, and they crazily attacked the regime. The Tiger race anxiously said that this was a rumor and that they did not study the virus at all. They claimed that these mechanical bodies were hidden on the planet by an unknown organization and calculated the day when a virus would break out. They purposely slandered their regime and damaged their credibility. The angry citizens felt that this was an excuse, so the Tiger race had no choice but to publicly ask the three universal civilizations for arbitration. In the private report that Han Xiao saw, the Tiger race explained to the three universal civilizations that this might be a scheme of the Furians or the White Hair race. Not only did they want to slander them, but they also wanted to frame a third party, causing a conflict between the two parties while they reaped the benefits. The White Hair race and the Furians both had a motive, but the Tiger race's words could not be trusted easily. Therefore, the three universal civilizations sent people to investigate. The current situation was complicated. The star system civilizations were protected by the peace treaty, so the dynasty did not let Han Xiao interfere with the affairs of the civilizations. In this area, the three universal civilizations did not allow any other organizations to play dirty. The black market has been beaten up by me, but the civilizations are starting to jump, Han Xiao frowned. Although this matter was not under his control, it did not stop him from smelling danger. He understood that the situation of the ancient star desert being sealed made the various civilizations vigilant, especially the superstar cluster civilizations. The three big hooligans had long lost their credibility, so they would definitely prepare for the worst, keeping a trump card and holding the chips. However, this did not benefit the overall situation at all. It was a classic game of chess. I still have to deal with the virus as soon as possible. I can't delay any longer. I'll go use Explorer again. Han Xiao got up and left the room, heading to the warehouse. Walking into the room, he immediately saw the triangular device that had once stored the virtual mutiny virus. It was lying there quietly. The dynasty's research on it was to no avail. Seeing that Black Star had asked for it, they allowed Han Xiao to keep it by his side. During this period, as long as the cooldown of Bold Explorer was over, Han Xiao would use the triangular device. Unfortunately, after watching a bunch of scattered fragments, there were not many valuable clues. At most, he figured out part of the origin of the virus. The mechanical civilization that he saw for the first time was the creator of the virtual mutiny virus. This was indeed a weapon. The original intention of creating it was to deal with the unknown civilization that had used a planetary annihilation weapon to destroy a planet of the mechanical civilization. The virus was programmed to kill living beings, and the mechanical civilization was naturally not within this range. It could be considered a high-level war weapon that did not harm its allies. As for this mechanical civilization, it was actually an artificial intelligence civilization. Just like the AI civilization, all its citizens were artificial intelligence life forms, just more advanced. The mechanical bodies that filled the streets were all shells that carried artificial intelligence life forms, which was equivalent to their vehicles in the real world. Their appearances were all self-made, so there were basically no duplicates. Han Xiao found some unique words and symbols of this artificial intelligence civilization in the backtracking of Bold Explorer time and time again. However, after comparing them, he found that there were no relevant records in the databases of the three universal civilizations. Either this artificial intelligence civilization was too old, and there was a gap in its history that even the three universal civilizations did not know about, or it was an advanced civilization in the unexplored universe. Regardless of which it was, it basically confirmed that the source of the virtual mutiny virus was the materialization phenomenon brought about by the information form disturbance, which was a mirage that interfered with reality. I hope I can see some useful fragments this time. Han Xiao glanced at Harrison beside him, took a deep breath, prayed for the blessing of the halo, and slowly pressed his hand on the cold surface of the triangular device. Buzz! The next moment, his vision suddenly changed, and he came to a bright laboratory. He looked up, and his pupils suddenly constricted as a look of surprise flashed across his face. He saw a triangular device placed in the middle of the room. It was not closed yet, revealing the safe inside. A group of mechanical bodies that looked like researchers stood beside it, operating the mechanical arms solemnly, putting a cluster of almost transparent light blue electric arcs into the device. Could this be the scene where the virtual mutiny virus was just created? I finally got something this time. Han Xiao suppressed his joy and carefully observed this cluster of light blue electric arcs. He saw traces of electric arcs swimming in the air like a powerful electromagnetic field. This is the virus core? Shouldn't it be virtual data? Why is it a cluster of electromagnetic energy? Han Xiaoxin was confused. At this time, an indifferent electronic voice sounded, and a mechanical researcher on the side pointed at the camera used to record the experiment process and spoke. Summary of the experimental object. Domino virus can infect quantum networks and rewrite the underlying logic of artificial intelligence. Currently programmed to kill all organic life forms. Raw materials. 1,000 mutated artificial intelligence lives with their independent thoughts erased, leaving only the data shell and computing ability. After 165 failed modifications, the domino virus was successfully created. The initial form of this virus has extremely high stealth, permeability, and infectivity. Virus core, a set program without independent thoughts. As a control center, it controls the domino virus according to the input logic, monitors the infection situation, and chooses the right time to activate the virus. At the same time, it has the ability to self-evolve. When the opponent develops a targeted firewall, the virus core will automatically analyze the data and use its powerful computing ability to find loopholes. It will continuously update and strengthen the virus information package to carry out a new round of infection. Note, starting from the second generation of the virus, all information packages are considered to be activated. Once infected, they will no longer be hidden and will immediately rewrite the target's logic. In addition, the virus core uses virtual soul, bioelectric simulation, magnetic field reconstruction, and so on. It has two forms of existence. It can turn into a virtual soul and swim freely in the quantum network. It can also leave the quantum network at any terminal and enter the material world, turning into an electromagnetic life form. Because the foundation of the virus core's existence is virtual soul, when it is in the electromagnetic field state, it can enter the quantum network at any time without touching the node. Therefore, the virus core has extremely high escape and stealth abilities, as well as high mobility. If used properly, a single domino virus can destroy most of the armed forces of a galactic civilization and cause the civilization level of the target to regress many generations. Because it is too powerful, it needs to be used carefully. The domino virus is temporarily sealed and cannot be used without permission. Han Zhao's eyes slowly widened. He felt like his young heart had received a huge blow. If not for Bold Explorer seeing all this, no one in the universe would have known the true face of the virtual mutiny virus. Now, I'm the only one who knows this information. The others are still in the dark. At this time, a bad thought appeared in his mind. This is bad. The plan of the three universal civilizations is not going to work. This thing is more troublesome than I thought. Chapter 11:15. There seems to be an activity. There is a post in the book review and comment section. Those who are interested can take a look. Super Godly Mechanic First Book Review Activity Duration. From now until December 20th, 2019. Activity Location. Starting point book review page of Super Godly Mechanic. Activity Requirement. Fans of Super Godly Mechanic are greater than or equal to apprentices. Otherwise, it will not be valid. The Super Godly Mechanic First Book Review Page Book Review Competition is as follows. Participants, please use your wisdom to praise your favorite character. It can be the main character or a supporting character. There is no limit to the content, the number of words, and the style. Participants, please use your own smart and brave imagination to participate enthusiastically. The title of the entry for this activity must be Entry for the First Super Godly Mechanic Book Review Competition. Otherwise, it will not be valid. The rewards for this activity are as follows. First place, reward 50,000 Chidian coins. You're the best boss. Second place, reward 30,000 Chidian coins. One person under you. Third place, reward 20,000 Chidian coins. Very impressive. Fourth place, reward 15,000 Chidian coins. Not bad. Fifth place, reward 10,000 Chidian coins. Not bad. Sixth place to 10th place. Reward 5,000 Chidian coins 11th place to 20th place. Reward 2,000 Chidian coins 20th place to 30th place. Consolation prize reward 1,000 Chidian coins. Consolation prize is not bad either. Asterisk? Asterisk. In addition, there will be a Best Idiot Book Review Award, and the winner will be rewarded 5,000 Chidian coins. Idiots can also win awards. You can register for this activity multiple times, but each account can only win once per month. The final explanation rights will belong to the Super Godly Mechanic officials. P.S. Speaking of which, if the number of participants is less than the number of awards, then wouldn't it be a waste equals? Asterisk. Chapter 11:16. At this time, the image of Bold Explorer came to an abrupt end, and his vision returned to the warehouse. His palm left the cold shell of the triangular device. Han Zhao stood where he was and silently looked at the device in front of him. He remained silent and did not move at all. Harrison did not know what was going on, but he could sense that the atmosphere was getting heavier. He asked cautiously, "Your Excellency Blackstar, what's wrong?" "Nothing." Han Zhao came back to his senses, glanced at him, and walked out of the warehouse. Harrison hurriedly followed. "Go do your thing. Don't follow me." "Oh, okay." Harrison hurriedly left as if he had been pardoned. Although Blackstar was not doing anything, Harrison could not help but feel immense pressure just by being by his side. After sending Harrison away, Han Zhao returned to his room and recalled the secret he had seen earlier. His mind spun rapidly. So, the real name of the virtual mutiny virus is the domino virus. What a terrifying weapon of war. Any organization that has this technology will be able to win in information warfare. He finally understood why the intelligent plague still swept across the entire universe in his previous life. It turned out that it was not only because someone was causing trouble, but also because the three universal civilizations did not manage to stop the invasion of the domino virus. It was not that their technology was not good enough, but that they were at a disadvantage in terms of intelligence. The three universal civilizations were caught off guard. After all, who would have thought that the virtual mutiny virus would have such a mechanism? If he had not seen the true face of the virus from Bold Explorer, he would have probably been like the three universal civilizations, still treating the virus core as a pure data program. According to normal logic, the virus core was just a switch program to monitor the progress of the overall infection. Therefore, the three universal civilizations felt that they were not afraid after creating the antivirus. Of course, they did not know that the virus core had the ability to self-update and evolve. What they had suppressed so far was only the first generation of the virus. As long as the core was not dealt with, there would be the second generation, the third generation, and so on. Furthermore, the virus would not be lurking next time and would directly cause a mechanical rebellion. Not only was the infection rate more terrifying than expected, the virus core itself had an extremely shocking ability to escape. It was not limited to data mode, and it could even enter the material world and construct an electromagnetic field as a shell to carry itself. It could freely switch between virtual and reality, and it was not afraid of being blocked on the internet. Because the foundation of its existence was a virtual soul, the virus core could enter the quantum network without any physical contact. This was similar to the ability of a beyond grade, a virtual mechanic, to enter the quantum network at any time. Only when it materialized would it need a node as an exit, which meant that it could use the quantum network to teleport between various nodes. No wonder I couldn't find any trace of the virus core after so many months. It's probably not because Harrison's Halo isn't good enough, but because it's impossible to track it down on the internet, Han Xiao thought. This ability was similar to his void warp. For the virus core, the quantum network was like another secondary dimension that it could enter and exit at will. This artificial intelligence civilization should not have reached the universal level. The three universal civilizations had the ability to analyze all the principles behind the domino virus, but they needed a certain amount of time to do so. Therefore, when they first encountered such a virus weapon, there would be a stage where they could not understand it. The technology tree of each civilization was different, and there would always be some civilizations that developed black technology, such as the Kundi race's space-time splicer. The three universal civilizations' achievements in virtual viruses could not compare to this artificial intelligence civilization. After all, there were specializations, and even their citizens were artificial intelligences, so this was clearly their strongest point. However, this is amazing. In my previous life, since the three universal civilizations successfully resolved the intelligent plague, the virus core must have been resolved. Logically speaking, the three universal civilizations should have mastered this technology, but why didn't they use it when they were fighting the world tree? Han Xiaoxin's head twitched, and he became suspicious. Could it be that the virus core did not fall into the hands of the three universal civilizations in my previous life, but was secretly stolen by someone else? The next moment, the image of an old man appeared in Han Technician's mind. Mecha Empire Manison. This be asterisk starred is the most suspicious. Han Xiao cannot be blamed for thinking this way. Manison had left too deep of an impression on him. This sounded like something Manison would do. Furthermore, the raw material of the domino virus was a mutated artificial intelligence, and Manison happened to be in control of an artificial intelligence civilization. It was terrifying to think about. Han Xiao hurriedly shook his head and got rid of these distracting thoughts. The three universal civilizations had to learn a lot to understand the mechanism of the domino virus. Now that I've seen the truth in advance, I can save the process of figuring it out and take precautions. Thinking of this, Han Xiao heaved a sigh of relief. In his previous life, the three universal civilizations could only figure it out while suffering losses. Now that he had this be asterisk starred who was reading the strategy, there was no need for them to repeat the same mistake. For all he knew, he might be able to resolve the source of the virus when it was still in its first generation, not giving the virus a chance to break out and minimizing the losses. From the looks of it, the butterfly effect he brought was still more positive. The main problem now is to convince the three universal civilizations to change their plan of killing the virus on a large scale. Without dealing with the virus core, it's useless no matter how much they kill the virus. Since the virus core's ability is so troublesome, dealing with it will require the cooperation of the three universal civilizations. The ability to self-evolve was the most terrifying. As long as this was dealt with, the rest would be easy. He was not afraid of the virus core escaping the ancient star desert, but the quantum network of this star field was blocked, which was equivalent to a large local area network. It would not be able to receive the feedback of the ancient star desert virus from the outside. Even if the virus core did escape, it would still have to log into this sealed network if it wanted to monitor the overall infection situation in the ancient star desert. This meant that even if the virus core could teleport with the help of the quantum network, its range would be limited to the ancient star desert. As for whether or not it would spread the virus outside, Han Xiao was not worried. Although the three universal civilizations lacked intelligence, they were not incompetent. In order to prevent leakage, they were also scanning the outside world. If the outside world was infected with the first-generation virus on a large scale, the three universal civilizations would discover it very quickly. After secretly analyzing for a while, Han Xiao had some ideas. He summoned Philip and ordered, "Contact the three universal civilizations of the ancient star desert. Help me arrange a meeting with the people in charge of the disaster command center of the three universal civilizations, as well as the other beyond grade A mechanics. I want to have a meeting with them and tell them that I made a huge discovery regarding the virus core." Half an hour later, Intelligent Play Disaster Command Room, upper echelon meeting room. After receiving Black Star's invitation, everyone put down the work they were doing. Shidrin, the other two supervisors, and all the beyond grade A mechanics were present in remote projections to listen to Black Star's discovery. As soon as Han Zhao's remote projection appeared, Shidrin immediately asked, "Did you find the virus core?" "Black Star, did you find the virus core?" "No, I haven't caught it yet, but I made a major discovery." Hearing that Han Xiao did not succeed, the people present were both disappointed and relieved. They then became curious about the major discovery Han Xiao mentioned. "What did you find?" "It's like this." Han Xiao did not beat around the bush and directly explain the mechanism of the virus core, mainly emphasizing the transformation and self-renewal functions. The threat of the domino virus was too high, and solving the disaster together was the most important task. Therefore, he did not plan to hide anything at this time. After hearing Han Zhao's explanation, everyone present fell silent. They looked at each other, not knowing what expression to make. Seeing this, Han Xiao continued with a serious expression. "Therefore, your large-scale antivirus plan is useless. Only by finding the virus core can the threat of the intelligent plague be truly eliminated. I suggest you take action immediately." This time, Shidrin interrupted Han Xiao with a strange expression. "Black Star, we would like to ask, where did you get all this information from?" Everyone present had the same thought. They stared at Han Xiao in shock and doubt. They could not help but be suspicious. This information was too detailed, so detailed that it felt like it was made up. "You're not lying to us, are you? You're so cunning. It's not impossible. This is a serious matter. We have to confirm the authenticity of the information. If you don't show us evidence, how can we believe you?" "I knew you would say that." Han Xiao was not surprised at all and opened his mouth. "In fact, I found traces of the virus core in the quantum network not long ago. I was about to track and capture it, but the target disappeared from the quantum network without any warning. The clues were cut off because of that. I'm a pinnacle beyond grade of virtual mechanic, and it actually disappeared right under my nose without me being able to see the mechanism behind it. There are experts here as well, so I don't have to explain how difficult it was. I had my suspicions back then and felt that it was not just a data program. And then? How did you find out about this? Shidrin asked curiously. Your files should have recorded that I have a passive foresight ability. I sensed that the virus core was not simple, and a few days later, I saw the future outbreak of the intelligent plague and the scene of countless lives being wiped out. At the same time, I also saw the true face of this virus core. Han Xiao pretended to be helpless. So, I really can't show you any evidence. This is difficult for us. The people in charge of the 3 universal civilizations looked troubled. It was not that they did not believe in Black Star, but foresight was sometimes not accurate. This matter concerned the safety of the entire universe. Without concrete evidence, betting on an illusory foresight was too risky. Han Xiao did not have much of a choice. He did not have any concrete evidence, so he could only use his foresight ability as an excuse. After all, Bold Explorer was not easy to explain. It was not as credible as foresight. However, although foresight was not convincing, with his current position, even if the people of the 3 universal civilizations did not believe him immediately, they would definitely find a way to verify his words. He did not need to explain too much. If it was proven to be fabricated, the 3 universal civilizations would naturally lower Han Zhao's credibility. However, before that, they would not immediately treat Han Zhao's words as fake. After experiencing so many things, Han Zhao's fame, prestige, and authority in the universe were enough for the 3 universal civilizations to take his suggestion seriously. At this time, Manison slowly said, I think I have some ideas. I feel that Black Star's prediction makes sense. In fact, I also discovered traces of the virus core some time ago, and it also disappeared in front of my eyes. I also suspect that it's not just pure data. As soon as this was said, Han Zhao's eyelids twitched. The virus core he encountered was fabricated, but Manison might not be real. I knew it. Old Manison did make some progress, but he kept it a secret. If not for me tricking him today, this old thing would never have revealed this information. TSK, you said I'm not smart enough, but you're even worse. You're still hiding such crucial information. Everyone looked at each other and silently digested this shocking information. In the end, it was Shidrin who coughed and replied, No matter what, we'll investigate the content of His Excellency Black Star's foresight. This is very important information. As he spoke, he glanced at Manison from the corner of his eyes with disdain. You're the strongest mechanic in the universe. Why can't you dig up as much information as him? Learn from him. Manison looked straight ahead and pretended not to see Shidrin's gaze. At this time, Kant worriedly said, If the virtual mutiny virus is really as Black Star said, then we're in big trouble. The firewall we've built in the past few months will be drilled into a sieve by the next generation of viruses. By then, a disaster will sweep across the universe. What kind of civilization developed such terrifying virus technology? Aren't they afraid of getting burned? Francisco expressed his doubts. Regardless of whether Black Star is telling the truth or not, we have to come up with a plan, Quantum Demon Judith, the dynasty's ally, said. Seeing this, Han Xiao spoke again and said with a deep voice, That's right. Regardless of whether the prediction is accurate or not, there won't be any problems if we give it a try. That makes sense. The 3 universal civilizations representatives looked at each other and nodded at the same time. Then, do you have a plan? It's not a plan, just a rough idea. Han Xiao paused and looked around. Seeing that everyone was looking at him, he slowly said, The mobility of the virus is too high. The virus core is too mobile and difficult to capture, but there are still limitations. It can enter the quantum network at any time, but when it leaves, it has to choose a terminal node as the exit. This might be a breakthrough. In order to receive feedback from the information packets, the virus core will return to the quantum network from time to time. This time, we might really have to cut off the network on a large scale and reduce the number of terminal nodes. This will limit the range of the virus core and reduce the number of exits it can choose. At every terminal node, we'll arrange people to create traps. The ambushers have to be beyond grade of virtual mechanics who have mastered virtual paramount. Because after the virus core materializes, it does not need to touch the terminal and can enter the quantum network at any time. So the opportunity is only for a short moment. The moment the virus core materializes, the ambushing beyond grade A mechanics will use virtual paramount to suppress the virus core's virtual soul, making it unable to leave the body temporarily. The technology to seal the virus core is ready-made. That safe prevents the virus core from leaking out, so it will definitely be able to suppress the virus core's virtual soul and prevent it from entering the quantum network. As long as we analyze that triangular container, we'll be able to master this targeted technology. Hearing this, everyone could not help but size Han Xiao up again with strange gazes. Putting aside the feasibility of your plan, just the fact that the ambushers have to be virtual mechanics who have mastered virtual paramount is a little too brazen. Virtual paramount is an ability that only divine throne mechanics who specialize in virtual mechanics can master. Naturally, it has to be a pinnacle beyond grade A. You have one, and Manison has one. So, what you're saying is that only virtual green kings like you can fight for the virus core, and even the 3 universal civilizations have to step aside? Are you sure you're not tricking us? Manison, on the other hand, laughed and praised this plan. Black Star said it well. It's our duty to maintain the peace of the universe. How many terminal nodes are there that can be used as traps? How about this? I'm willing to mobilize 50 million spare lords avatars and place them in the various nodes, ensuring that I can descend at the location of the virus core at any time. Is that enough? Chapter 11:17. As soon as Manison finished speaking, the atmosphere in the conference room instantly fell silent. Everyone's eyes turned to Manison in unison. Their eyes were filled with a what the F asterisk CK emotion. Listen to this. Is that something a human would say? Han Xiao almost gasped. He could not help but size Manison up with a strange gaze. Do you really have 50 million lords avatars as carriers? Maybe I'm exaggerating a little. This is just an imaginary number. Manison laughed. That's more like it. These things are not mechanical soldiers. How can I make so many? I don't even have 5,000. Cough, 50,000 backup lords avatars. Han Xiao secretly heaved a sigh of relief and subconsciously asked, how many do you have? 48,000,1052. Oh, 54. Speaking of which, there are 2 more now. The world fell silent. Han Xiao's mouth twitched. His mind was a little messed up. He could not understand it all. No, I can understand how many mechanical soldiers you make, but what's the use of so many lords avatars? Only one can descend at a time. It's a waste to have more. Can you use them all? Manison. Oh, I lack a sense of security. It's better to be prepared. The world fell silent again. You, the great Mecha Empire, lack a sense of security? IF asterisk king. Sure, this is a very strong reason. Other than calling him shameless, the people present had nothing to say. Han Xiao just wanted to blow Manison's head off. This is showing off, right? This is definitely showing off. Almost 50 million lords avatars. And you're still a human? How rich do you have to be to dare to do this? This is going to take over all the ambush locations. So what if you have money? Sensing Black Star's resentment that was about to overflow, Manison smiled faintly and gave him a look. Yes, it's great to have money. Thank you for your help. Han Xiao gritted his teeth and sent Manison a private message. Don't try to fool us. You've created tens of millions of sovereign clones. That's a waste of resources. Hee hee, you're still too young. The mechanical race has nothing but machines. Manison smiled and stroked his beard. He thought for a while and added, and money. Damn, I almost forgot that you're a second-generation heir. Rich dog. Han Xiao felt as if he had eaten 10 lemons. He secretly gritted his teeth. I was the one who came up with the plan. Shouldn't you do something about it? Why don't you give me 10 million sovereign clones? My doppelganger has my own size. You can't use it, so what do you want it for? Manison raised his eyebrows. I can reforge 10 million sovereign avatars. The cost of the materials isn't a small sum. Sure, give me the space-time amber in exchange. Crawl. Han Zhao's face darkened, and he decisively ended the private chat. That old fogey craves my space-time amber every day. Bad thing. As the two of them exchanged glances, the people in charge of the three universal civilizations also glanced back and forth between the two of them with strong suspicion in their eyes. One was the president of the Beyond Grade A Development Union, and the other was the vice president. These two probably colluded to put on an act, right? Sidrian coughed and resisted the urge to eat something delicious. He forced a smile and said, "That's right. We're very grateful for your Excellency's generosity, but the battle plan hasn't been decided yet. There's no need to rush. That's true." Manison nodded and casually raised his hand, indicating that he was just casually speaking and that they could continue chatting. Sidrian then turned to look at Han Xiao and said with a deep voice, "Your Excellency Black Star, your idea seems good, but its feasibility is still questionable. First, we have to ensure that the virus core returns to the quantum network. Only then can we cut off the network on a large scale and control the other party's exit range. However, how do we determine when it logs onto the network? You have to know that those virus packets don't have a uniform time to send feedback data, so we can't determine when the virus core comes online. Secondly, we can't even lock onto the data form of the virus core for the time being, so it's difficult to track on the network. If it stays in the quantum network, will we not be able to find it? Therefore, this is only a prototype of the idea. We still need to perfect the details, but the general idea should be feasible," Han Xiao said. "There are ways to solve all these problems. Since we know that the virus core is a life form and have its details, we can use this as an anchor point and use prophecy magic to find the other party's login time," Khan added. "Regarding the data form of the virus core, I can provide some details," Manison said. "Although I didn't catch it, I recorded the data traces it left behind when it was active in the quantum network. These are the other party's characteristics. We should be able to lock onto its data form by scanning and matching it." Everyone discussed for a while and gradually perfected the details. They all felt that this battle plan was worth a try. At this time, Shidrin raised one last condition. "I have one last question. Participating in this battle plan doesn't necessarily require mastery of virtual paramount. Every Beyond Grade A mechanic should have the ability to catch the virus core. If all the Beyond Grade as here participate, the chances will be higher." He did not believe Han Zhao's nonsense. If Beyond Grade A mechanics had the ability to catch the virus core, how could they have to master virtual paramount? That had to be a scheme by Black Star and the Mecha Empire to monopolize it. "We have no objections. We're happy to help." The others all agreed. "Of course, none of you have any objections. You have a chance to fight for the virus core." "What objections can you have?" Han Xiao thought to himself. "Then it's settled." Sidrian slapped the table and said with a serious expression, "This plan still needs to be approved by the upper echelons. The two people in charge, and I have to report it. There will be a result very soon, and it should be very smooth. This operation will rely on the abilities of all of you Beyond Grade As. I hope that all of you are well prepared. The safety of the universe will depend on all of you." Deactivating the remote projection, Han Zhao's gaze returned to the office. He bent his finger and casually knocked on the table. All the Beyond Grade A mechanics would participate in the operation to catch the virus core. Everyone wanted to fight for the virus core, so choosing the ambush location was of utmost importance. This was a matter of probability. The more clones there were, the higher the chances of them ambushing the virus core. In this aspect, no one could compare to the Mecha Empire. In comparison, Han Xiao had very few backup Lord's clones. It was not that he lacked money, but to him, creating too many of them was useless. He could only send one clone at a time, and it was basically used to guard the base. Old Manison clearly had bad intentions for creating so many clones. He probably wanted to guard countless planets one day. Humph. His ambition was clear as day. Manison probably has more Lord's clones than the trap nodes. He'll definitely be able to find the virus core and be in an invincible position. I can only rely on my luck and it's the same for the others. Han Xiao rubbed his forehead. There was no limit to the number of ambushers at the same location. Manison was everywhere, and there was no way to avoid him. This was too difficult. When the three universal civilizations finalize the star map of the trap nodes, I'll get Harrison to help me choose the ambush location. If my luck fails and I don't find the virus core, that's fine. However, if I find it, Manison's clones will most likely be nearby, and I'll have to compete with him. It'll definitely be a situation where I don't need to use my fists. I can only play it by ear. Han Xiao sighed. If there was any advantage he had, it would be that he did not need to care about the survival of the virus core. Other people would want to capture him alive and analyze the complete technology behind the domino virus, but he had the intelligent plague mission. Personally destroying the core of the virus would give him a related specialty. With the characteristics of the domino virus, the related specialty would probably be a virtual ability. Although this would mean that he would lose the opportunity to obtain the complete technology, thinking about it carefully, if such a threatening virtual virus was analyzed by the three universal civilizations or other beyond grade, as it might not be a good thing. Furthermore, even if he succeeded, it would be a hot potato. Countless people, including the three universal civilizations, would have their eyes on him. However, the domino virus technology could also become one of the weapons against the World Tree civilization. Han Xiao was in a dilemma as to what to do. Forget it. It's still too early to think about this. I have to ensure that I can encounter the virus first. Only then will I have the qualifications to compete with Manison. He calmed himself down. Anyway, this was going to be a large-scale operation, and the preparation period was not short. He had a lot of time, so he could add some production lines to create as many Lord's clones as possible and place them in more ambush locations to increase the probability of him encountering the virus core. This is Black Star's intelligence? On the other side, the remote projections of the three universal civilizations' leaders gathered together to listen to the report from Shidrin and the others. Right after the meeting held by Black Star ended, the three supervisors introduced the battle plan to the three leaders through the only encrypted external communication channel, hoping to obtain permission. After hearing the whole story, Unravel crossed her arms in front of her chest and slowly spoke. If Black Star's intelligence is true, he'll be a great contributor to the explored universe, saving the disaster from a storm. Without his foresight, we would have had to pay the price of blood to discover the true face of the virtual mutiny virus. This plan was also proposed by him. If the virus core is captured because of this, Black Star will be the hero of the entire universe, changing the future that he predicted. Bader also expressed his appreciation. Black Star has indeed contributed, the Ethereal Pope said calmly. Putting aside their past grudges, the Radiant Federation and the Arcane Church greatly appreciated Han Zhao's performance during the Intelligent Plague. In their eyes, he was very reliable and had contributed greatly. Thinking of this, the three of them looked at each other and nodded. We approve this operation. We allow you to mobilize the resources of the ancient Star Desert to carry out this battle plan. Don't disappoint us. Understood. Shidrin hurriedly agreed. This time, the Ethereal Pope suddenly said, "There's another thing. Make sure that the virus core is controlled by us in the end. Don't let other beyond grade as get their hands on it." That's right. The virtual mutiny virus is a weapon of war. It's too dangerous. We definitely can't let this technology spread, or the order of the universe will be threatened. Bader agreed and added, especially Black Star and the Mecha Empire. If a peak beyond grade, a virtual mechanic obtains this technology and improves it, it might evolve into a hidden danger even more terrifying than the Intelligent Plague. Even though Manison was an ally of the Radiant Federation, Bader was not biased. Although they all wanted to obtain this technology, the three of them understood that preventing a fourth party from controlling the virus was a more important task. In the eyes of the three universal civilizations, this kind of weapon of war with strategic deterrence was only beneficial to the entire universe if they monopolized it. Somewhere in the ancient Star Desert, a desolate planet welcomed a small civilian transport fleet. This was a legal interstellar transport company. It was not large, it was not famous. It only operated a few fixed routes, and its business scope was limited to a few star zones in the same star system. There was a small desolate universe belt here. Because it was not large, the advanced civilizations did not set up stargates. Thus, many long-distance transport companies were created to cross this desolate universe belt. At this time, the transport fleet slowly stopped outside the planet's atmosphere. Resupply here. This planet has fuel resources. Go up and collect some. In the main ship, a senior captain who had worked in this transport company for many years gave the order. This time, a member of the exploration team suddenly exclaimed in surprise. Reporting to the captain, the radar detection shows that this planet is shrouded in a strange electromagnetic field storm. The captain was stunned. He came to the porthole and found that the atmosphere of this desolate planet was constantly flashing with light blue plasma arcs, looking like a looming electromagnetic shell. That's strange. I've been running this transport route for decades, and I don't know how many times I've stopped at this planet. When did this electromagnetic field storm phenomenon appear here? The captain muttered to himself and went to the radar to check the detection results. The energy structure of the electromagnetic field appeared on the screen, and the more he looked at it, the more familiar it seemed. This electromagnetic field model. A member of the exploration team hesitated. Why does it look a little like the bioelectric network of the brain's neuron activity? The captain was shocked. When he looked closer, the structure of this electromagnetic field was like a brain magnified countless times. Could it be alive? It can't be an electromagnetic field life form, right? The captain was surprised. This kind of field-type life form had always been a rare life form. It could be sold to collectors with special tastes, and the price was not cheap. Thinking of this, the captain hurriedly gave the order. Quick, find a way to capture it. This is an unexpected gain. However, as soon as he said that, the electromagnetic field storm that shrouded the planet suddenly dissipated and disappeared into thin air. It also disappeared on the radar, as if it had never appeared. The members in the cabin were stunned. Are my eyes playing tricks on me? The captain rubbed his eyes with a look of surprise. Chapter 11:18. On the Star Ark civilization's mother planet, the upper echelons were having a discussion in the conference room. The three universal civilizations sent a notice not long ago, asking us to listen to their orders and be prepared to shut down the quantum network base stations on all planets. What are they trying to do? Isn't the intelligent plague already under control? Now that the three universal civilizations are doing this, could it be that something has changed? Or are the three universal civilizations going to mess with us again? The upper echelons all had tense expressions and were filled with suspicion. Originally, when the three universal civilizations announced the completion of the antivirus 3-piece set, they felt that the intelligent plague was basically solved. Thus, they focused their attention on the situation of the ancient star desert being sealed, thinking that the three universal civilizations might take the opportunity to do something to them. They were paranoid all the time, as if they were suffering from paranoia. The three universal civilizations suddenly ordered them to be prepared to cut off the quantum network in their territory at any time. This made the Star Ark civilization even more sensitive, almost thinking that this was a signal to attack them. This time, it was not cutting off external communication, but shutting down the quantum network in their territory, destroying the cornerstone of the galactic society. In the galactic era, large civilizations like them relied on the real-time information exchange of the quantum network to rule and govern the various planets. Now that they were asked to completely cut off the network, it meant that they would temporarily give up their ruling power over their territory, causing the various regions to fall into an unknown period of time without a central authority. The civilization leader knocked on the table, making the room quiet down before speaking. The three universal civilizations issued the same notice to the other civilizations, not just us. Hearing this, everyone nodded in agreement. Then, it seems like it's related to the intelligent plague. How are the three universal civilizations doing recently? A high-ranking official asked. The head of the intelligence department raised his eyelids and said, "The three universal civilizations are scattered across the various planets. The troops of the three universal civilizations are stationed on various planets, and those beyond grade A mechanics are also acting strangely. They're sending their own mechanical troops to those planets, as if they're going to do something big. All the beyond grade A mechanics are on the move. Yes, all of them. What do you think they're doing? I'm not sure, but it looks like they're setting up an ambush." The civilization leader pondered for a moment before slowly saying, "Cooperate with the three universal civilizations. Investigate what the three universal civilizations and these beyond grade as are doing. Keep a close eye on them and don't ignore any of their movements. I want to know what their purpose is." Flickering World, Development Union Headquarters, Planet Finn. Many beyond grade or remote projections were gathered here, holding regular meetings to communicate. Many of the positions were empty, and most of them were beyond grade A mechanics who had been recruited. The positions of the president and vice president were also empty. Speaking of which, the Mecha Empire and Black Star have been absent from several meetings. I wonder how they are doing in the ancient Star Desert. Someone inadvertently brought up this topic, which immediately aroused everyone's interest. The intelligent plague in the ancient Star Desert has been going on for several months without any news. What's the situation now? Is the disaster under control? The star field has sealed off all information. I can't get any information either. Do any of you know the situation? Because the three universal civilizations had rated the intelligent plague as a world-destroying universal disaster. The entire universe was very concerned about the situation in the ancient Star Desert. However, due to the information blockade, there was no way to know the progress. The Beyond Grade, as present, were also curious. "Hey, Hela, is there any news about your army commander?" A Beyond Grade, turned to look at the silent Hela. "No," Hela replied concisely. She was also a member of the association. Since Black Star was absent, she had become the representative of the Black Star Corps. Tolian curled his lips and said, "Humph, Black Star has probably been killed. Are you asking for a beating again?" Hela was expressionless. Tolian smiled sinisterly. "The way I see it, the three universal civilizations calling all the beyond grade A mechanics over is a scheme. Think about it. Both the president and the vice president are mechanics. Isn't this like catching everyone in one go?" The allies of the Arcane Church all looked at him, speechless. "Which side are you on? Is it really okay to spread rumors about your boss like this? Don't talk nonsense. You have to take responsibility," an ethereal direct member said unhappily. "Sorry, I always speak my mind." Tolian snorted. Hela could not be bothered with him, but she was still a little worried. The other mechanics had all sent their avatars over, and only Black Star's main body was there. The ancient Star Desert was sealed. If the three universal civilizations really wanted to do anything to Black Star, that place would instantly become a dead end. Hela did not trust the three universal civilizations from the bottom of her heart. Although she had the teleportation function of the King mechanical suit, it could not dispel her worries. On the other side, Secret Master, who was resting with his eyes closed, could not help but tremble as he listened to everyone's argument. As the protector of the black market, he was more curious about the situation in the ancient Star Desert than anyone else. Ever since the star field was sealed, all contact with the black markets there had been cut off. Many of them were businesses under his protection, which had always provided him with huge profits. Some of them were Beast Ancestors businesses that he had just taken over not long ago. After not contacting them for so long, he had no idea how his businesses were doing. I wonder what the situation in the ancient Star Desert is like now. Secret Master's thoughts drifted away as he guessed. The three universal civilizations made arrangements according to Han Zhao's battle plan and spent more than a month preparing. They sent their fleets to each trap node planet. Most of the time was spent on traveling, waiting for the various beyond grade and mechanical troops to arrive at the ambush locations. Because this was a star field level local area network, there were quite a number of trap nodes spread throughout the various star systems of the ancient Star Desert. The trap nodes that the three universal civilizations chose were mainly in areas that were not easy to control, with just a notification or some important locations. Every terminal exit was guarded by the Beyond Grade A mechanics and the three universal civilizations fleets. Manison's Lord's avatars were stationed at every location. Han Shao had created a new batch of Lord's avatars during this time, but the number was still limited. He settled for the next best thing and arranged mechanical troops at every ambush location. As for the limited number of Lord's avatars, they were placed at carefully selected locations, referring to Harrison, to try their luck. The target of Lord's Descent was not limited to the Lord's avatars. Even ordinary mechanical soldiers could be used as carriers. However, the shared skills were not complete, and their combat power was far lower than that of the Lord's avatars. Therefore, even if the Beyond Grade A mechanics who had mastered Lord's Descent could ambush at every location, they could only be bystanders at most. They did not have the advantage that Manison had. After all, ordinary mechanical soldiers would not be able to compete with Manison's Lord's avatars. Therefore, the other Beyond Grade A mechanics were all prepared to force the virus core to materialize at the node where their Lord's avatars were at during the first step of the network tracking. Due to the concealment of the virus core, there were no universal scanning tools at the moment. Only Beyond Grade A mechanics had the ability to track the virus core online. Although some of them were not specialized in virtual, as long as they had learned the ultimate knowledge, virtual creator, they would be able to cut down people online. In order to increase everyone's virtual ability and coverage, the Radiant Federation took out a large-scale strategic device called the Super Range Virtual Brainwave Amplifier. This was a piece of equipment specially made for mechanics. It increased their virtual ability in many ways and greatly increased the coverage area. In the hands of a Beyond Grade A mechanic, it was the most effective. The size of the device was extremely large. It was like a silver spherical galactic base. The exterior looked like it was pieced together by many boards. There were obvious gaps, and it was not smooth at all. The interior of the device was extremely spacious. In the center, all the Beyond Grade A mechanics formed a circle and floated in midair, facing each other. They were all in position. The remote projections of Shidrin and the other two sensors appeared in the circle. They solemnly said, "Everyone, the mechanical troops have been deployed. There are only 13 minutes left until the predicted virus core goes online. When the time is up, we will immediately cut off the network and turn the ancient star desert into a trap. Please act according to the battle plan. Everyone, please capture the virus core." Everyone nodded. Although the mission on their shoulders was very heavy, everyone present was a big shot who stood at the peak of the universe, so they did not feel much pressure. The first step of the battle plan was to cut off the network. After the trap was set, everyone would track the virus core on the network and prevent it from hiding. It was like catching a chicken in a cage. With the data provided by Manison, as well as the enhancement of the Super Range Virtual Brainwave Amplifier, they could track the virus indefinitely without letting the virus core escape. At this moment, Kant smiled and said, "This should be the first time all the Beyond Grade A mechanics in the universe have worked together. I think it will be recorded in history." Hearing this, many people present laughed in unison. All the top figures in the mechanic world working together was undoubtedly a representative event. Han Shao glanced at everyone and curled his lips. Humph, these people are laughing so happily now. When they fight for the virus core later, their brains will be out of their heads. I hope Harrison's halo is reliable this time, and the virus core will end up in the hands of my Lord's avatar. Han Shao did not participate in the compliments and prayed silently in his heart. Everyone quietened down and adjusted their state of mind. Time passed by minute. Finally, when the countdown reached 1 minute, Shidrin looked at the time and said with a deep voice, "Everyone, let's move." In the quantum network vision, the ancient star desert was a dimly glowing star field. Countless shining nodes converged into a sea of light. Countless data links between the nodes outlined a complicated three-dimensional network structure that extended in all directions. These thread-like data links formed the cornerstone of the galactic society. At this moment, the view zoomed in, and a stream of light suddenly appeared outside one of the thread-like data links. This stream of light looked like an extremely precise data model. There were no numbers flowing on the shell. This was the data form of the Domino virus core, showing the structure of an artificial intelligence life. The next second, the virus core touched the firewall of the data link. Its shell instantly assimilated with the firewall, easily evading the alarm mechanism. It completely infiltrated the link and moved along with the flow of information, capturing the feedback data of the virus packets swimming in the network. It was like a big fish eating a small fish. However, at this moment, a large part of the ancient star desert that was shining in the quantum network vision suddenly dimmed. The data links broke one after another, and a large number of nodes went out at the same time. Only a small part of the sea of light was left. At the same time, more than a dozen powerful consciousnesses suddenly descended on the quantum network and scanned the remaining quantum network area inch by inch. It was as if all the data had nowhere to hide. The next moment, one of the consciousnesses suddenly locked onto the virus core. The data stream condensed out of thin air, and a glowing figure appeared in front of the virus core. Kant's virtual soul had a faint smile on its face. Found you. At this moment, the virus core program quickly made a judgment and immediately adopted a response plan to escape. Following the data link, the virus core changed its disguise many times and frantically escaped to countless nodes. However, suddenly, a data stream tornado appeared in front of it. Do you want to play hide and seek? The data stream formed the face of the quantum demon spirit, Judith, quietly staring at the virus core. The virus core did not hesitate and turned to escape again, wanted to find a place to hide in the quantum network to get rid of the tracking. However, no matter how much computing power the virus core used to disguise itself, it would still encounter the figure of a beyond grade A mechanic every time it ran. It was forced to change its direction time and time again, as if it was in a panic. Han Xiao, Manison, Kant, Judith, and more than a dozen beyond grade A mechanics appeared one after another, blocking the virus core's path time and time again. The encirclement gradually took shape and shrank. This scene was like a group of sneering bullies surrounding a virtuous woman. No matter how hard she tried, she would be pushed back to the center of the encirclement with nowhere to run. At this moment, the virus core stopped running and entered one of the nodes, suddenly disappearing into thin air. It has materialized. In the material world, the eyes of Han Zhao's main body, who was staying in the super-range virtual brainwave amplifier, suddenly sparkled. The terminal exit that the virus core had chosen seemed to be a planet occupied by the machinery Faith. That was one of the ambush locations of his lord's avatar. At the same time, powerful mechanical force burst out of every mechanic around Han Xiao. Many lords' consciousnesses shot toward the planet where the node was located. Chapter 1119. Ancient Star Desert, somewhere in the desolate universe belt, planet Magnetic Cloud. This was one of the settlements of the machinery Faith. The ground was yellowish-black, and heavy bases in the machinery Faith style were rooted on the surface, arranged neatly, forming a circular industrial city. Around it were open-air mines with countless large industrial cranes hanging on them. The streets of the city extended in all directions, all flattened gray roads. Fleet after fleet of transport vehicles roared past, sweeping past the pedestrians in heavy power armor on both sides of the street. In the center of the circular city was a towering mountain, cut off from the middle into a platform where the machinery Faith community sat. Right above it was a floating island, emitting a gentle artificial light. The machinery Faith had many believers, with many internal factions, loose management, and wandering nature. Usually with the Grand Priest and the various bishops as the core, they gathered a group of believers from different factions to form a fleet, searching for planets in the universe and constantly migrating. Their goal was to excavate the minerals and underground mechanical wreckage of the planet, hoard them, or sell them. Therefore, most of the planets occupied by the machinery faith were only temporary strongholds, somewhat like a wandering sect. The machinery faith did not have many fixed strongholds. Some were branches of different factions, some were long-term settlements of believers like planet magnetic cloud, and some were recognized as holy lands by all believers. Now, the three universal civilizations' heavy-armored fleet was hovering in the blue-black sky of planet magnetic cloud. The believers on the surface were not surprised, occasionally glancing up before lowering their heads and continuing with what they were doing. The three universal civilizations had already greeted the machinery faith. This kind of loose religious organization had always been difficult to manage. The three universal civilizations did not trust the machinery faith's ability to execute orders, so they simply sent a fleet to station here, using it as a trap node. At this moment, on the open-air platform at the top of the machinery faith temple, the Grand Priest in the bishop armor looked up at the fleet in the sky and whispered to himself. Seeing this, the priest beside him walked over and asked, "Grand Priest, are you worried about the three universal civilizations' fleet?" The Grand Priest shook his head. "We're just a civilian association, following the law. We don't have much interaction with the three universal civilizations, so they won't do anything to us. I'm just glad that the three universal civilizations are here." Glad? That's right. Ever since the outbreak of the intelligent plague, the number of zealots in the church has been increasing day by day. Not only are they secretly researching the virtual mutiny virus, but they even want to spread it. This goes against the original intention of the machinery faith to be neutral. Their twisted beliefs will bring disaster to the church. Now that the three universal civilizations' fleets are here, they've indirectly suppressed those zealots, the Grand Priest mumbled. Now that he thought about it, his heart still felt heavy. After the three universal civilizations developed the antivirus, there were even some fanatics who used the banner of promoting God's revelation, wanted to modify the virus and crack the antivirus so that the intelligent plague could continue. They insisted that this was a great artificial intelligence revolution. Thus, he had no choice but to mobilize the Guardian Legion and lock these people up. However, this thought remained and continued to spread throughout the settlement. Well, maybe the priest paused for a moment before asking in confusion, "I still don't understand why the three universal civilizations are temporarily requisitioning our settlement. It seems to have something to do with the intelligent plague." "I'm not too sure either." The Grand Priest shook his head. Before he could finish his sentence, the armor's built-in radar suddenly reacted. Abnormality detected in the magnetic field of the planet, creating a vortex phenomenon. Coordinates. The Grand Priest was stunned. He turned around with his companions and looked in the direction of the magnetic vortex. The magnetic field of planet magnetic cloud was very special. The armor of the machinery faith believers here had specialized monitors for the magnetic field. Now that they all heard the report from the radar, the pedestrians on the street stopped and looked in the same direction. Everyone switched to their electromagnetic vision, and the flow of the magnetic field was clearly visible. In the distant sky, the electromagnetic field seemed to have formed a tornado. Bright electric arcs appeared out of thin air, quickly forming an energy field. At this time, something unexpected happened. Boom! Dazzling meteors flew out from the three universal civilizations' fleets in outer space, rapidly falling in the direction of the electromagnetic field vortex. Although the shooting stars were not large in size, they were all emitting astonishing energy waves. Dazzling electric arcs were left behind and did not disperse in the retina for a long time. Together with the rumbling of thunder, it was as if the sky was collapsing. "What's that?" Including the Grand Priest, the machinery faith believers on planet magnetic cloud were all shocked. At this time, this batch of meteors had reached the position of the electromagnetic field vortex and stopped. The flames on their bodies dissipated, revealing the appearance of mechanical bodies. They were all the Lord's avatars of the beyond grade A mechanics. Manison, who was in the lead, was the fastest. He raised his eyes and glared, and the electromagnetic vortex stopped for a moment. Then he raised his hand and grabbed the electric arc field in the center of the vortex. It was sucked into a miniature, triangular container the size of a head. In the next moment, the abnormal electromagnetic vortex phenomenon disappeared, as if the wind and rain had stopped and the sky was clear. It was as if the electromagnetic tornado, just now, was just an illusion. Those are the Lord's avatars of the beyond grade A mechanics. Seeing this, although they did not know what had happened, the machinery faith believers were instantly excited. In their eyes, the appearance of so many beyond grade A mechanics was no less than the descent of gods. However, before they could be surprised, the situation changed again. The other beyond grade A Lord's avatars, who were one step behind, attacked Madison at the same time, raising their hands and stabbing him in the back. Bang! 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 Light exploded in midair, reflecting in the eyes of countless machinery faith believers. The next second, Madison's Lord's avatar flew out of the explosion and was surrounded by everyone. Seeing this, a look of surprise flashed across the eyes of every believer. These beyond grade A mechanics are going to fight here? Then, aren't we involved in a war of gods? Rewind time to 10 seconds. In the three universal civilizations' fleets outside planet Magnetic Cloud, mechanical troops of different mechanics floated. Some of the mechanical troops surrounded their respective lords' avatars. The moment the virus core left the quantum network, everyone's lord's consciousness chased after it, and the eyes of the mechanical bodies suddenly lit up. Target locked. As soon as Han Xiao arrived, the sound of the detection radar rang in his ears. At the same time, a black shadow fell rapidly not far away. It was Madison's avatar, and it rushed toward the virus core first. This old thing is so fast. This thought flashed through Han Zhao's mind. Just as he was about to use his skills, he realized that void hyperdrive and other flash abilities were all in a state where he could not use them. His eyes narrowed, and he immediately understood something. Without any delay, he immediately fell to the ground. Behind him, meteors followed one after another, all of which were other people's avatars or troops. Bang! The group passed through the atmosphere one after another, and the friction created a layer of flames. Han Xiao stared at the target closely. The electromagnetic vortex expanded rapidly in his sight, and the distance between them was instantly shortened. The virus core had just left the quantum network and was in the middle of gathering electromagnetic energy to form a body. At this time, it noticed a group of beyond grade A Lord's avatars approaching, so it immediately gave up on materializing and escaped into the quantum network again. However, at this moment, Madison's eyes shot out a strong electric light, and he activated Virtual Paramount first. Buzz! The virtual soul of the virus core was instantly suppressed, unable to leave the body that had not yet fully formed. Madison's movements were smooth, and he did not stop at all. He quickly took out a special containment device and sucked the virus core into it. This kind of container was specially made to contain the virus core's ability. As long as it was caught, the virus core would definitely not be able to escape. Old Madison got it. Han Zhao's eyes narrowed. However, at the next moment, the other lords' avatars followed closely behind and attacked at the same time. Highly concentrated beams brushed past his body and went straight for Madison's back. Bang! Bang! Madison had expected this. Layers of shields appeared and blocked everyone's attacks, causing a violent explosion. Using this push, he quickly pulled away and turned to face everyone, still holding the virus core container in his hand. Everyone surrounded Madison and confronted him. Be careful. If you destroy the container, my efforts will be in vain. Madison wasn't angry at all as he spoke calmly. The direct descendant of the Radiant Federation, Protector Romo, said with a deep voice, Madison, hand over the virus core. You know very well that this kind of thing cannot be leaked. The remote projections of Shidrin and the other people in charge appeared beside him and said with a serious tone, That's right, Your Excellency, Mecha Empire. You're a reasonable person. Our three universal civilizations will definitely reward you for capturing the virus core. However, this thing cannot be allowed to remain in the hands of others. No need to be so nervous. When I'm done, not only will I hand over the virus core, but I'll also share the technology I've analyzed. Manison was very casual and did not panic. Han Xiao did not say anything. He looked around and nodded. He had expected this situation long ago. In his previous life, someone had intercepted the virus core and probably obtained it secretly. However, the current situation was completely different. The virus core was a hot potato. No matter which mechanic obtained it, they would immediately face difficulties and become the target of other mechanics. At the same time, the three universal civilizations would definitely ask for it in public. Battleships were of no help in capturing the virus core. So why did the three universal civilizations set up a fleet at the trap nodes? Obviously, this was not to deal with the virus core, but to deal with beyond grade A mechanics like them. The Lord's avatars present basically all had short-range hyperdrive abilities. Han Xiao even had Void Flash, but no one used it. This was because the fleet had already activated the space-time stabilization anchor at the trap nodes to prevent anyone from escaping. It was precisely because the space-time around planet Magnetic Cloud was locked that Manison stayed here to talk. Otherwise, he would have disappeared with a hyperdrive the moment he got it. If he wanted to leave with the virus core, he could only fight his way out. However, although the three universal civilizations and the other mechanics tried to take the virus core, they were worried about destroying the container, so they restrained themselves. The three universal civilizations hoped to get the virus core back from Manison through negotiations. They were even mentally prepared for the other party to raise the price. Mecha Empire. The virtual mutiny virus is a strategic weapon technology that can threaten the entire universe. Only the three universal civilizations have control of it will not cause any problems. We will not allow any risks to exist, so no matter what, we have to get the virus core today. You should understand the seriousness of this problem. The supervisor of the Arcane Church said with a firm tone. Manison did not respond immediately. Instead, he glanced at the other mechanic avatars and slowly said, "Do you see it? Do you see that? Whoever obtains the virus core will have to face such a situation. Do you still want to continue fighting?" To be honest, I'm not that interested in the virus core. After all, I'm not a virtual mechanic. However, I don't mind using this bargaining chip to exchange for more good stuff. Kant chuckled. Don't look at me. As long as I get the virus core, I can regain my freedom. I'm now on ethereal side, Francisco said. As long as there's a chance, we have to fight for it with all our might. Teacher, this is what you taught me, Mechanical Queen Mornisa said calmly. Everyone expressed their stance. Although their reasons were different, they all expressed their determination to get the virus core. In the end, Manison's gaze stopped on Han Xiao. Blackstar, what about you? Han Xiao did not answer directly. Instead, he raised his tone and said, You've asked around. It's not just a casual conversation, right? Are you stalling for time? Or are you trying to find an ally? Hearing this, Manison smiled. Blackstar, you know me best. That's right. I need an ally to deal with this tricky situation with me. You and I both understand the situation of the Beyond Grade as. We're on the same side. I'm researching the virtual mutiny virus technology not only because of the technology, but also to fight for a guarantee for the Beyond Grade as. If you're willing to help me, I don't mind you researching this technology with me. As soon as he said that, everyone looked at Han Xiao. Some were curious, some were wary, and some were mocking him. Han Xiao was indifferent and said casually, That's right. Sounds good, but I think you'll go back on your word. You might not believe me, but I need someone to take this risk with me. It's more beneficial for me to have two people control this technology, so I won't go back on my word this time. Tis TSK, you have no proof. It's useless no matter how nice your words sound. Then, how do you want me to prove it? Han Xiao pointed at the container in Manison's hand and smiled. Since you're willing to research it together, it doesn't matter who has the virus core. You give me the device, I'll take the risk, and you'll help me break out. This way, I'll believe your sincerity. Otherwise, you'll be cheating my feelings. I have no problem with that, but you're willing to research it together with me now that it's in your hands? How can I be sure that you won't go back on your word? Manison asked. Just like what you said earlier, I'll attract too much attention alone. I also need a shield. Han Xiao shrugged. Manison was silent for a few seconds. Just as the atmosphere was getting more and more tense, he slowly opened his mouth. His attitude immediately shocked everyone. If that's the case, why can't I give it to you? That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.